This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got with the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
It's time for the start of a mega weekend in Australian sim racing. Unfortunately, thanks to the worldwide situation right now, the Bathurst 12-hour cannot be run in real life, so that is where the sim community steps in. Oceanic Sim Racing and Aussie Mixed and Fixed have organised the Oceanic Sim Racing Bathurst 12-hour this weekend, brought to you by Smith & Sons Renovations and Extensions. This is the qualifying day. We've got quite a day of qualifying coming up, a full field of GT3 machinery staking their claim for the front row, for the pole position for 12 hours of racing happening tomorrow on the 31st of January. My name is Rhys Gardner. Joining me in the commentary box is Ryan Jones. Ryan, my goodness, what a track this is. What a place to have a 12-hour race. The Bathurst 12-hour has grown in stature as one of the world's premier motorsport events. Now we get to do it on the sim. 1.5 hours of qualifying and a top 15 shootout to kick things off.
Yeah, g'day Rhys. Hello everyone. This is going to be a really, really fun weekend. Obviously the 12-hour, it's an interesting history, isn't it? Started out as a bit of a production car event, and then it's become this global draw card for GT3 machinery, and we don't have it in real life. We've got it in iRacing instead, and we've got such a fantastic field of drivers and teams. We've got the best of the best in Australian sim racing entered in. It's going to be thrilling to see how they perform over the course of qualifying tonight and the 12-hour tomorrow.
Yes, indeed. We got teams like Evolution Racing Teams, Synergy Sim Racing, R1 Sim Sports, Injectors Online, Fusion Sim Racing, United Sim Sports, Simrigs.com, DPR, Talk Inc., and Altus Esports, all making their claim for the win of this race. We're currently in a practice session right now and seeing how the field stacks up. Currently, Altus Esports has the 1-2. Bo Albert, Cooper Webster and Sam Blacklock in the number 83 car, putting themselves in P2 there, 202.426, with United Sim Sports, Jackson Harlow, Forzan El Nabi and Jared Filsell all driving together in the same car. We've got some great lineups here at the front of the field.
Yeah, I'd be concerned about both of those Altus Esports entries, hey, because they are absolutely powerhouse teams. And well, if they can make it past turn 2, it's going to be incredibly hard to stop them, especially if they do start towards the front of the field. You can see there, car number 42, Andrew Kyle, Simone Maria Machino, and James Scott. I mean, that is quite the lineup. And then even then, they've got another team with just as good drivers. So they're the ones to stop this weekend, I reckon.
Yeah, indeed. The number 43, yeah, Carl, Scott, Marchino, and I want to draw attention to the R1 Sim Sports machine as well, because there's quite a few drivers in that team that we've seen great things from in the past. I remember GT Leagues Australia running their sprint series in GTE, GT3 machinery. John Peacenik, Rhys Cassell and Luis Paulo Gallon were 3 drivers that were up the front more often than not, and they're joined by Cameron Stubber in the number 21 Ferrari. I'm looking forward to seeing how that car does too.
And of course, over the course of 12 hours, it's not about being outright fast. You've got to be consistent as well. Here's the circuit. Street circuit, permanent circuit. It's sort of a mix of both. It was open, wasn't it? With the premise of always being a racetrack in the end. And you can see it's such a tight circuit. Without that little red line outlining the place, it's actually quite hard to see where the track is from the Google Earth view. some famous names, some very famous corners, the chase, the cutting, the metal grate, the most famous grate in Australian motorsport, and then that incredible run down the hill through Skyline, the Dipper, and the S's. It's an iconic track. We love coming back. Luckily, in sim racing, we get to keep coming back many, many times throughout the year.
Indeed we do. And full laser scanned reproduction of Mount Panorama on display here in the iRacing sim. We were just taking a look there at the R1 Sim Sports car. They've just put themselves P3 in practice, demoting these guys, Harlow, Philcell and El Nabi, down to P4. So they've taken a 10th out of that time, and that's a 10th that BMW is going to have to find back in the 90 minutes of qualifying coming up. Interesting to note in terms of car choice, really by far the most popular option drivers have taken have been either this one, the BMW M4 GT3, or the Ferrari 488. They by far have the most entries in this field. We still have a few Lamborghinis, a few Mercedes, but by and large it's Germany and Italy that dominate.
A good mix there between the newest and a stalwart of our GT3 categories in iRacing. I always look into these events. I look at what the favorite teams are doing in terms of car choice to see which one should be the quickest, because they're the ones have done so much preparation. And so you look at what cars the top 6 drivers are running in, and it's BMW for Altus, it's BMW for United, and it's Ferrari for Evolution Racing Team. R1 Sim Sports are running in a Ferrari as well.
Indeed they are, and every team will have picked their car based on what they found the most comfortable, what they feel like they can get the most pace out of, and the BMW and the Ferrari couldn't be more different in terms of layout. The Ferrari with a twin-turbo V8, the BMW with a twin-turbo inline 6-cylinder. The BMW has the engine in the front, the Ferrari has the engine just behind the driver in a mid-engine layout. So they make their speed in slightly different ways, but at the end of it, as you can see from the timing down the left-hand side of the screen, it doesn't make much difference in terms of pace. These cars are very well matched.
BOP does a pretty good job, doesn't it? And when you're running at that quality at the front of the field, there's not much to separate you anyway. It's going to be very interesting over qualifying, 90 minutes for them to try and find their perfect lap. And then, of course, a 15-car shootout afterwards to set the first 15, reset the first 15 spots on the grid. That's going to be pretty wild. GT3 machines fanging it around this track, using all of the track available to them. Hopefully not too much to find the mammoth lap, but we've got to get through and filter the 43 other cars, or 28 other cars out of the picture first. 43 in total.
Yes, indeed. We got quite the field here tonight. And when they all get on the grid for tomorrow's race, starting at sunrise, it's going to be quite a tight squeeze out there on the Mount Panorama circuit. Another thing that we absolutely definitely should mention is the prizes on offer for this race. Logitech have come on board as a major sponsor of the prizes for the Bathurst 12-hour. Almost 5,000 Australian dollars worth of cash and prizes from Logitech and from Astro Gaming. A big thanks to our series supporters here. First place, man, what a prize this is. And get this, it's per driver as well. So if your car wins the race, every driver in your team gets a Logitech G Pro X wireless headset valued at nearly 400 Australian dollars. They each get $150 cash and a trophy. And there's also trophies for second and third place as well, plus headsets.
What a race! What did I win? They are astounding prizes, isn't it? And big thanks to Logitech G for coming on board and sponsoring this and putting up some real good stuff. I won't lie, hopefully Altus don't win, because they've probably got those Pro X wireless headsets already, don't they?
Yeah, of course, Altus, sponsored by Logitech G and Astro Gaming, so who knows, they might already have the equipment under their belt, but there's the prize for second place. Every driver getting a G733 wireless headset and $100 cash, so you know, at the end of 12 hours, you put in the effort, you're going to get dividends paid back for you.
And then Astro putting up an A20 wireless headset for third place, $50 cash, and a trophy as well. So all three podium spots, you're going to get a really good prize. In fact, all three of those headsets are top quality, aren't they?
They
But
are.
cash as well doesn't go astray. And a nice trophy to display right next to your monitor, your rig. You can claim bragging rights over everyone that walks in. Bo Hubbard in YouTube chat's wearing his Pro X headset right now. So
Righto.
there you go, Bo. You're not allowed to win this race.
Yeah, stay off the podium, mate. But going around is the number 43, still holding on to that P1 time, 2:02.3. Andrew Carl putting in some great laps here at the end of the practice session, and running pretty consistently in the mid-2:02s, just putting in their final checks for qualifying. Here's a car that we expected to be a little higher than they are, the Trick Esports machine, sponsored by Pro Sim Gear. Alexander Bird joined by his teammates in that machine, and they're another team that has seen a lot of success in GT and endurance racing here in the AusNZ SimSphere.
Yeah, that's a word, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, Trick Esports have been around for a little while now, and I think everyone recognises them as one of the teams in GT racing. They do a lot of running in AMF, the Aussie Mixed and Fixed competition as well, which is where I've seen a lot of these guys, and they're always in the top 5 spots, if not the top 2. So I'd be looking out for these guys. Alex Bird in the car right now. And who's he running with? Oh, he's got that wrong.
Dear.
He's got that very wrong. So there you go. There's something to learn for later on, and some avoiding action will have to be improved for whoever just came along and cleaned him up. Ross Rizzo, James Glasspool, and Alexander Bird running in that Trick Esports entry.
Indeed, they originally signed up as Lamborghini, but decided to switch to the BMW for the race weekend. So it'll be interesting to see how they cope with that. Thomas Hinds, meanwhile, driving with Brett Loxton and Jason Harmsworth in the Zuva entry here, the number 209. It's a very familiar number to people who watched the V8 Scops Premiere Series, which also is broadcast here on SimSpeed TV. Loxton and Hinds have been teammates in the Australian touring cars for quite some time now, and now both jumping in a Ferrari with one of their mates and getting into P17 in the practice session. They could be a potential look-in for a shootout spot.
Are we going to talk about the fact that Hinsey should be on a beach sipping a cocktail right now? Or
I think it goes without saying at this point. Thomas Hinds, he drives when he drives, and when he does, he can put on quite the show. He has a lot of skill under his belt, as do Loxton and Harmsworth.
well, the track is pretty hot for these guys. Shouldn't be too much grip available to them. It's going to be pretty slick and slippery.
Oh.
Up there is Hinsey. Gets it all sorts of wrong. And he's collected.
Okay. Hopefully,
Those are the dangers of the mountain. Tomorrow morning, that is going to be such a danger spot when we kick this race off in the wee hours of the sun.
Indeed, something that we have to consider is you won't be able to do what Thomas Hinds did just then in qualifying or the race. You can't escape back to the pits because Oceanic Sim Racing, involved in this one, brought over one of their rules from V8 Scops as Wayne Burke goes to P11 in that machine. Excellent stuff from the P11 guys. But the no escape rule has been brought in for qualifying in the race. If a car is stopped on track or if there's a spin or a crash, the cars must make their way back to the pits if they can. And if they cannot, they have to stop by the side of the track and ask race control for a tow. When that happens, race control has the right to red flag the qualifying session. So you don't want to be the one to make a mistake, because then it means that everyone's laps are going to be neutralized briefly.
It's an interesting addition to the qualifying session, I would assume. If they do have to take the tow back to pits, they're done for the session as well. So there's a lot of pressure on this. You can't make that mistake, and it's tough because these guys are going to want to be going absolutely flat out. It's a stampede out of the pits now because everyone wants a bit of clean air, a bit of track to themselves, no distractions. You got 90 minutes to put down the marker for qualifying. Get yourselves in the top 15. You'll have to do it again.
Indeed you will. Everyone just trying to find their space out here on the track. Field being led away by one of the Ferraris, Dennis Gatterick, in the TM Racing machine with that big Echuca Toyota signage on the bonnet. Followed very closely by the BMW and Thomas Hinz's Ferrari, taking their first tour around the racetrack. I'm seeing a couple of drivers need to be a bit careful with giving each other space down the back. There was almost some contact between a few drivers. Andrew Carl slowing down with Jackson Susanalo and Dylan Gray in the Gentleman's Sim Racing Club car, almost making contact. So drivers will have to dial it down a bit, give each other the requisite space they need, because the track's going to get pretty hectic soon.
Pretty hectic, isn't it? 40-odd cars. They're trying to hunt for clean real estate. All of them got let loose at the same time. It'll settle down as the session goes on and drivers cycle in and out of the pit lane. Going to be interesting to see what teams do in terms of drivers. Do they let one guy or girl go at it all session long, or do they just cycle through their team and hunt for the quickest driver? Find out. All we know is Dennis Gatterick is going to be the first driver to take the green flag on a flying lap for TM Racing.
Indeed he is, down to Murray's corner for the final time on the outlap and gets it off to a clean start to begin his lap. Set a pretty good time in practice, a 2:03.1. That's not too far off the 2:02 lap times that we were seeing up at the top of the field. So pressure's on here for Dennis, coming down Mountain Straight for the first time. And coming up to this next right-hander up at Griffin's, it's a very difficult corner. It's got a big crown in the road, but it's got some good banking towards the inside. And you'll see Gatterick here go for the early turn in, go over the crown and keep the car hooked in to the inside, not taking as much curb on the exit as I've seen some drivers do. But at this stage in the session, you just want to get a lap on the board. You can't afford to push too hard.
At the helm of that Ferrari, it's 1/4 of a 4-driver entry for TM Racing. Luke Turner, John Merritt and Glenn Riddell will all jump in the car at some point tomorrow as well, all things going smoothly. So he's got 3 pairs of eyes watching him very closely right now. And that's another thing, there's a few different 4-driver teams, there's a few 3-driver teams, and of course fair driver share is going to have to be worked out amongst that. You get a bit more of a rest with 4 drivers, but if you've got 3 very quick drivers, well, there's no reason going to 4, is there?
Yeah, that's it. That's one of the games that you have to play before jumping in the car yourself. Work out how your teammates are going to divide the race between you. As you say, if you already have a strong team of 3 drivers, sometimes it's not worth going for a 4th. Maybe someone to be left in reserve if one of your prime drivers cannot make it. But there's teams out there like the United team that are able to put together a fantastic lineup with just 3 drivers. Let's see what time Dennis Gatterick puts on the board then. The first proper time in the qualifying session. It's going to be a 2:03.51 there for Dennis Gatterick.
Not bad.
Not a bad time at all.
Yeah, only 0.4 of a second away from what he or what the team managed in practice. So that's generally a good signpost of what you want to be aiming for at least. Obviously in practice they had the ability to reset and all of that, so there was a bit less pressure on them. You certainly want to be matching your practice time. Here's Andrew Kyle, and he's already in traffic. Looks like an Evolution Racing Team machine right in front of him. I think, sorry, Director Jonas went, nope.
It's the Banter Alliance car. And,
blue and white, I mean, similar.
Similar-ish. Well, Andrew Carl's gotten a little bit of a slipstream here down Conrod Straight, but I don't think he'll be too happy with coming up on the car as he was coming across the top of the mountain. This is going to be a compromised entry into the chase as well. He cuts across and tries to... Whoa, hello. There's even more traffic there. Andrew Carl not having a great time at all.
Really good awareness from those two cars. Just parked it right before the turning point. Kept it out of the way. We're going to see a lot of that today. Contrasting fortunes as he comes into pit lane, Andrew Kyle. No time on the board for him. Behind him, or rather ahead of him, elsewhere on the racetrack, I'll say, Cooper Webster, the other Altus entry. Put it to the top of the timesheets by almost a full second, or 3/4 of a second. So one of these entries found a good hole on the racetrack, the other one did not, and I reckon Kyle's coming to pit lane so they can just sit there and wait and release him back into a big bucket of clean air. Here's Rhys Cassell, currently 3rd fastest for R1 Sim Sports. He's going to want to find himself a little bit closer to the time toppers at the moment.
Yeah, he's on his second lap running at the moment. I don't know if he's going to try and bring it into the pits on this one or commit to the second lap. Pit entry just coming up here. No, he elects not to go for it. He's going to finish this lap. Let's see if it's an improvement on the 203.628 that they currently have under their belt. Ran a bit wide on the exit of Murray's, but goes faster to P2 then for R1. Beats the time set by Dennis Gatterick.
Be happy with that, giving them a stake out of the corner. It shows there's a lot of time in the board still for him, though. Only 37 cars put a time down at the moment. Still just under a dozen that have failed to meet the timing boards at the moment. 27th in the session, it's Shawn Hodges for IPA Racing. He's just made his way by Darren McKenzie on the run into the chase there. Gets pushed down to 28th as someone goes quicker up the order. Loxton gets out of the way into pit lane. That's nice for Hodges. A nice clean run to the line. Is this an improvement as he falls down back to 30th? You need to keep improving. That's exactly what he does. Goes back to 24th.
Good improvement there for Shawn Hodges. 205.2. Only has to gain an extra 0.2 to leapfrog the XRC3 machine that is currently piloted by Simon Nicholson. What about Sean McNamara, meanwhile, sitting in 21st place in his Ferrari? This is looking like a reasonably quick lap here. Across the line they go, 204.753. The 9.5 SimSport machine does improve a little bit there to 18th position. And
John McNamara. Sorry.
Oh no, go on, Ryan.
I don't know if we're talking about different cars, but quickest across the top of the mountain, Sean McNamara. And he's just crossed the line with a 204.754 to put his car 18th. So the Ferrari, I guess you'd expect it to be nimble and fast across the top, wouldn't you? And the BMW down the straights, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely, as that's a great improvement for the Synergy car. Brenton Hobson putting that car to P5 in the number 88. Excellent stuff. Is starting to become a proper threat to that initial time set by TM Racing's Dennis Gatterick. But I am quite impressed at that Ferrari of Sean McNamara, the 9.5 car. These Ferraris do seem quite good across the top, and as you say, Ryan, you'd expect that. It has a mid-engine layout, and by virtue of the engine placement and the way you can change the car's aerodynamics to suit, it ends up really liking those tight, twisty corners, and the BMW with that inline 6 punching a hole through the air down the straights. I reckon that car seems to be the one to have down the mountain and up Conrod. Riding on board with Maverick Bentz, and he's got a slipstream from a BMW just ahead of him coming into the chase. That's Cooper Webster in front of him in the Astro Gaming Altus Esports machine, pushing very hard on the exit of the chase. See if he decides to pull into the pits. Cooper Webster is slowing down just ahead of him, and Benson backs off as well. I think Webster was thinking, I'll just let him by, but Maverick doesn't want that. He wants the draft.
Interesting choice there. He was giving it some welly down the mountain, that's for sure. And there was a big group of cars that got by Webster at the same time, and now there's some cars just coming out of pit lane as well, so it's not going to be the cleanest lap, or at least the start of it for these two, as they're going to have to get by them down mountain straight. Who else we got? Jackson Harlow, no time on the board for this United Sim Sports #1 entry. I think Harlow's not going to change that now as he fires it out of the last corner. What's the first time going to be for United? It's second place at 2:02.984. Still 0.2 of a second away though from Cooper Webster's benchmark.
And Andrew Carl has put the number 43 into P3 just as we were speaking. So a great lap from him to finally get that time on the board that he wanted. Ethan Griggault in the Evolution Racing Team Ferrari, meanwhile, he's looking to try and get himself onto the board. Facing some difficulties across the top of the mountain. Blake Delaney having a couple of issues as well in his Ferrari. A bit too much curb on the inside. But you see just how tight it is there up the top of the mountain. You cannot afford to make a mistake from the cutting to Forest Elbow. It's just a never-ending sequence of walls being close and up and down, side to side. The road layout. It's a fantastic circuit, but when it bites, it really bites.
Here's Cooper Webster, looking to go quickest again. Can he improve and give himself a little bit more breathing room? Give his teammates a chance to breathe just a little easier. That was Maverick Benson car that he just got by. Sorry, it was Riley Preston. Maverick Benson's fallen a long way off him after starting the lap right up behind him. So here we go, Webster to the line. I think he's just managed to get a little bit lucky with how he's caught the traffic on this lap. And the time he puts down is a 2:02.841. It still would have put him on provisional pole, but it's not as quick as he's gone already. That's a troubling sign for everyone else in the field.
Yeah, it is. Not least for these guys in the Trick Esports BMW. Alexander Bird is currently sitting just outside the top 10. A little bit of a wiggle on the exit of Forest Elbow is not going to help his campaign. They're currently sitting on a 2:03.89. And looking at those sector times, Sector 1's looking all right, but Sector 2 a little bit down, just where he needs it the most. Down into the chase, then the car hops across the bumps and divots in this public road for most of the year. Nice smooth exit out of the chase as well. The car not getting too crossed up, but do I see him get on the brakes? And he's going to slow down and try and go for another lap here.
Yeah, Dave Clements in the Mach 1 Esports car just got given a free pass by him. He's just gearing up for a lap now in his Ferrari. So, 4 cars haven't set a lap time yet. Nathan Hubbards in his Fusion Racing Team car is not one of them. He's currently sat 18th. And that's a car I reckon should be well in contention for a top 15 shootout slot as well.
Yeah, this car's got a good lineup. Nathan is driving with Andrew Gaines, Josh Burden, and Chris Pellett in tomorrow's race, but he's been given qualifying duties for this particular machine, the number 45. And that's looks like pretty much his best sectors across that lap. He's gotten a bit of a draft as well from Luke Rosella there in the BMW Team Schnitzel machine. I love that team name. Can't wait to see more of them. Yep. A little bit wide of the apex at the chase for Nathan Hubbards, but still a very smooth and controlled exit. Let's see if he can put this thing into the 203s potentially. Maybe a low 204 out of Murray's he goes, and that is a 203.976 to 13th place for Nathan Hubbards. So within the top 15, but not by much. He's going to have to find a bit more in that machine now.
Got to make sure when we get closer down to the session we pay real close attention, because this top 15 bubble is going to be so immensely hard fought, even if the leaders are a couple tenths clear. 15th place is well and truly up for grabs. Right now, it's a 204.057 with XCM that has it, but half a second back is still another 6 or 7 cars. So, you know, you've got to put in the lap to get into that top 15.
Yeah, that you do, indeed. So, Brenton Hobson put it P5 just before, but other drivers have gone faster. Been taken over by Evolution Racing Team 26. Last minute racing, putting themselves into P4 as well. So let's see if this is going to be an improvement for Brenton Hobson. 47.0 and 29.0 the sector times so far, which is looking pretty competitive, I have to say. Let's see how he goes coming up to the line. For tomorrow's race, the start zone is going to be pretty much where the pit entry line starts. And I'll have to keep an eye out for that tomorrow. But Hobbo across the line, a 204.196. That's not quite the time that he needs. He's got to be faster than a 203.6 if he wants to improve. So
Synergy,
another bite of the cherry for Hobbo.
Synergy Sim Racing, 3 entries. What would you rate Hobson's entry there? He's in Synergy Sim Racing 2, alongside... I just had it, and I just lost it.
Trailer Nolan.
Yeah, and then you've got the other entry with Burke, Ross, and Freer, and you've got Keeley, Parks, and Postlethwaite. That's a car on the fence. How do you rate this one? I mean, it's hard to pick between those 3 which one is the quickest, but...
Bit of a problem.
Yeah, look at this first.
Paul Nichols here. He's going to have to find a way to get that back to the pits. I don't know if he's already requested a tow from race control, but all alone on the circuit. He's got the space to move if he wants, but he might have just damaged that thing a bit too much. That's probably going to be session over for this car. It's down in 47th position. Hasn't set a truly competitive lap time yet. Oh, looks like Nichols might just try to get this going now.
I can see this going wrong so quickly. It's such a tough spot, he can't see anyone coming until it's going to be too late. Be good if race control could help him just find a slot here. He's going to have Dylan Gray, Gerard Daly, and Frank Hodak looking at him, begging him to get it back to pit lane. They're his teammates, the Gentlemen Sim Racing Club team entry. Alright, come on, you've got a big gap now. Up.
Everyone going into the pits, maybe in anticipation of there being a red flag to get that Gentlemen Sim Racing Club car removed from the circuit. Brenton Hobson is continuing on his lap meanwhile, and briefly back to the Synergy discussion. Oh, he's going to bring it into the pits. It is interesting how Synergy have gone for their driver choices, because if you wanted to put all your eggs into one basket, so to speak, you'd probably want to put Brenton Hobson and Glenn Postlethwaite in a car sharing one together. But Synergy have decided to spread out their talent across their 3 teams. And, you know, man, when you ask me to try and pick a favourite out of those 3 teams, I don't think I can, because they're all very evenly matched, in my opinion.
Humour me with this. I think my ultimate team of the Synergy Sim Racing lineup would be if they'd put Hobson, Ross, and Postlethwaite together.
Hobson, Ross, and Postlethwaite, yeah.
And the 3 of them are in 3 different teams.
Wayne Burke, we can also think about as well. Of course, Wayne Burke has driven for Synergy in the past and won performance racing in the past too. So put all 4 of those guys in a car, and that would probably be the Synergy super team everyone's dreaming of. And
we are red flagged, as you probably guessed, with that lineup in pits. Paul Nichols just got his car going, and watching them head up past the cutting now. There he is. A little bit of damage to the front of that machine. Are they able to get theirs repaired now that they can get it back to pit lane with a spare car? Or is it...
Well, I mean, it's qualifying, so the car will be refreshed when it comes into the pits anyway. So there's going to be no danger of that for the Gentlemen Sim Racing Club guys, but in the race tomorrow, they're going to have to pay attention to it. There are 2 fast repairs available.
Yes, Shawn Hodges in the IPA racing car. Could be some ramifications here. He's kept going. I just heard race control asking to escape back to the pits, but he's still giving it the full send. Oh, there we go. He's heard him on the second call. Mike Korolev got the angry voice out that time.
Oh dear.
And Hodges obliged very quickly, and he's been given a pit infringement for passing pit lane twice. So his qualifying is finished.
Well, there we go. Race control wasting no time in dropping the hammer. If anyone decides to violate their rules, Nichols is going to bring it back to the pits, and the session will be able to continue for those guys. But we're seeing the Oceanic Sim Racing safety car come out onto the circuit just to survey, make sure that everything is cleared. Nick Parker back in this machine for the first time since the last V8 Scops round. You usually see Nick make quite a few appearances, neutralizing the field in that series, and I'll be wondering if he's going to make a few more appearances tomorrow as well.
I'm just glad this didn't freeze the clock, because it would have been a long day otherwise. Is a safe scar necessary? Can we just get the field back on track?
Well, ask Oceanic Sim Racing that. They are the ones in the boxes.
Yeah, fair. I guess with 40-odd cars, it could be easy for them to miss a car just stranded on the racetrack.
Yeah, could be. Just need to take it easy for a couple of minutes. At least this gives the drivers a bit of a break just to reassess the track conditions and go through the same motions that they did at the start. Everyone goes out, tries to find their space, and then sets a couple of laps. Speaking of the track, it's actually gone up in temperature again by a couple degrees. It's now at 48. So the track getting quite hot here, and we're not even to the hottest part of the day in Sim right now. It's 11:21 in Sim, and the track, I think, will see it over 50 degrees by the end of the session.
I'm not going mad. It's 12:27. It's 12. I had to look at that for so long and assure myself I wasn't going crazy. It's 12:27 in Sim.
Yes, our overlays having a bit of a tough time keeping up with the current state of play in the passage of time in the sim.
At 11. Something. It started at 11.
Righto.
But we're an hour and a half into the session now. We've got about an hour and 10, just under left. We'll finish this one up about 2 o'clock in Sim time. The shootout's going to be right in the peak of the afternoon, isn't it? Safety car's back in. All right, let's let loose this field. And now we're going to see that rush again. All of the cars on the same part of the racetrack, looking for fresh, real straight. Pit lane is open.
Indeed it is, and leading the way out is going to be Brodie Kaseki in the last-minute racing BMW. Remember, those guys have done quite well to put themselves in P4 for the time being. And right at the front of the queue as well, it's going to be a great position for them to be in. Tyler Bowen here sitting still on pit lane exit in the Mach 1 Esports Gold car.
No one will let him in.
Yeah, I think he's just going to have to wait for a space here. Rolling backwards as well. Get on the brakes, Tyler. He's starting to roll out of frame.
I reckon he got up and had to take a bit of a toilet break and forgot to put the car in, well, a condition where it's not going to roll back. Here's Brodie Kaseki, currently 4th in the session for last-minute racing. Kaseki, of course. Brodie's got himself into the main game this year, has he? Or is he still in Super 2? He has, yes. So Kaseki's having a dip at Bathurst. He'll be back towards the end of February for the first round of the Supercars Championship. Completely different machinery, though.
Indeed. the current generation of supercars racing out there, they're a bit closer to GT cars than they were, but certainly it's still a very different style of racing and a very different style of driving required too. Let's see if Mr. Kaseki can make good on his threats for pole position. These guys, on the other hand, a former V8 driver on this team as well, in the form of Aaron Russell, driving with Jack Flood and Mitchell McLeod. And in a very simple livery there, black and white in their Lamborghini, but they're a very colourful team, there's Talk Inc. They've actually got a bet going on who's going to wall it first in the race tomorrow. And
McLeod.
Yeah, well, yeah, that wasn't it? Jesus. Well, we'll see what the outcome of that bet is, but Mitchell McLeod here putting himself inside the top 20 and looking quite pacey in that Lamborghini. Probably has a tinny in his hand down Conrod.
Mainly why I say McLeod, because who knows how many deep he's going to be by the time he gets into the car tomorrow, if he's not opening. In fact, I'd be curious to see how many deep he is if he is opening at 6:45 in the morning, 7:45 or 4:45, depending on where you live. Too early for some, Rhys, hey?
Yes, too early for some indeed. On account of me being in Western Australia, the race is going to start at about 4 in the morning my time, so I'm not going to take part in the broadcast of the first 3 hours of the race tomorrow, but I will be on for the final 3-hour stretch of the race with Lockie Mansell.
I won't be on for the last 3 hours, because I will be elsewhere occupied, so Lockie will be on with me tomorrow morning, which should be good fun. Lockie's very keen for this event. We're very excited and won't stop bugging me about it. No, he's having a good time getting ready for this 12-hour in amongst a hectic whirlwind of real-life duties for him as well.
Yes, indeed. Wayne Burke looking to improve here in the other Synergy car, and we're hearing from our director we're seeing a lot of purple sectors on the board, so we're going to be seeing a big flurry of times being improved here, and well, it looked like Kaseki was going to improve on that lap, but interestingly he's decided to bring it in. He's overshot pit exit and put it into the wall at pit entry. That's a bit awkward for the last minute racing boys. What about Wayne Burke then? 17th at the moment with a 2:03.906. That's going to put him up to 13th. Excellent job there from Berkey. Jackson Suzlin Harlow puts the United Sim Sports car to P2. 2:02.892, edging ever closer to the time set by this car. Cooper Webster's decided to abandon his lap.
Yeah, I just noticed Harlow jammed up behind Hinsey at the moment. And there's a big disparity in pace between them, about 1.2 seconds for outright pace. So I think he'll be a little bit frustrated by this. And another driver that's going to be frustrated is that Evolution Racing Team car of Ethan Grigol, stuck behind Andrew Hayes and AHR Endurance. He's lifted off and let him get some time now. Daniel Hall just crossed the line for LL Racing, 27th for him with the big Logitech branding on the side of that car.
Yeah, that's an improvement of one position for that BMW, just chipping away gradually at the times here.
LL Racing might stand for Logitech something racing.
Lads.
Logitech Lads Racing.
I like that. Oh, slight appointment with the wall there for Mr. Hall.
I don't like that turn 2 line.
Yeah, oh dear. Hobbo getting into the wall as well, just up ahead with the Altus car slowing down to let faster cars by. It's a very awkward spot of the track for something like that to happen. When you're coming up to the turn-in point for the cutting, there's no room on the inside, no room on the outside. So if you're a faster car coming up on a slow one, you're basically screwed.
Got Nolan, so Hobson's jumped out, Nolan's back in to the car for the first time in qualifying. So it looks like they're going to split the duties there at Synergy Sim Racing 2 as straight ahead goes Cooper Webster to let Tyler Bowen get by, and, well, Chad Vigar, Max Havet as well. Very busy at this part of the circuit right now, and Webster doing a good job just to keep his awareness and keep himself clear of trouble. I'm sure he had a lot of practice at that over in Simmons Plains just last weekend.
Yes, indeed. Quite a bit of practice.
Certainly in the XL category, there was how many odd cars crammed onto that little tiny circuit? About at least 20, 25, 30, I think. So, he would have had his practical work cut out in qualifying there. Good practice for the 12-hour, that XL race.
Yeah, indeed it is. You're going to have to pick your way through quite a bit. Hearing that Brenton Hobson had to step out of the Synergy car to do dad duties. So Hobbo being a dad for the next few minutes while his teammates take over. What of Jason Bentz then? 16th at the moment in his Ferrari. Looking like some alright sector times so far on this lap. Out of the chase, looking very smooth too. Oh dear. It's a little awkward. Slowing up right at Murray's corner, and that's contact. That's going to be lap invalidated right at the end with that Lamborghini trying to slow up to get a run. Unfortunate with this many cars out on the track. I think that's inevitable in some respects. You know, you come up on a car trying to gear up to do a lap, and well, that's how it goes.
Just perusing the leaderboard, looking to see if there's any teams I think are out of place. Haven't managed to get a lap in yet. Certainly think Trick Esports and Fusion Sim Racing could be slightly higher up. There's 2 out of 3 Synergy in the top 15, so I think Glenn Postlethwaite needs to find a bit of time. He's only 17th at the moment, on the outside looking in for that top 15 shootout bubble.
Well, Luke Rosella wants to improve here, driving with Hans Brunswick and John Derrick in that number 5 machine. Only 3 places between them and getting locked out of the shootout. Rosella's going to bring it in now. Get another run in a bit later on. Seems like for quite a few drivers, the track just isn't up to scratch at the moment. What about Maverick Benson then? We saw him trying to keep up with an Altus car before, but now he's got a nice clear track all to his own, slightly wide through McPhillamy Park, but keeps the pace up in his Ferrari.
Through the dip, that left front wheel's going to pick up almost every single time.
I don't know if you saw that, but at the dipper, Benson passed a stricken Ferrari. Chad Vigar in the Angry Birds racing car stopped at the dipper. So this might be another red flag situation if he can't get that thing turned around.
Has he ended up there? I imagine. I can't see it. So he's got it wrong. I'd imagine it's probably started all the way back at the top of the descent, hasn't it? Towards Skyline.
Yeah.
It's damage to the front left, potentially where he's hit the fence over on the top right of your screen. And spun himself around. Haven't heard a red flag call from race control.
Well, there is the car. It's on the outside of the dipper where cars don't usually go, so it's probably quote-unquote safe-ish for now, but of course race control's best interests would be to get that car back off the racetrack and into the pits as soon as possible.
He's got about half a second of warning for when a car comes through.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Alexander Birch just ran out of fuel. Where is he?
Oh, what?
He's just come over the radio and let us know that he's run out of fuel.
Oh dear. And that's coming up to the rise on Conrod Straight, so he's going to have a tough time here trying to get it back to the pits, dipping underneath 100 kilometers an hour as he approaches the crest. Looks like he might be able to make it back from here. But still, That's an event that you don't want to happen in the middle of a qualifying session. It kind of disrupts your rhythm.
Oh, I was gonna say he's gonna want to hope he doesn't have to get out of the way of any cars and stop. He's just managed to find a gap coming through the chase, so he didn't have to pull over off the racing line too much.
He's got to let these guys through as well before he can move over.
Race control just got alerted to the car at the dipper, who hasn't actually called out that he's there, so they probably don't even know. Neil Pearson, the man to let them know that, hey, there's an unlucky victim at the dipper, who is still there. Bird has just made it into the pits.
Well, there we go. Trick Esports live to fight another day in qualifying. Let's see if they can improve on where they are, because just outside the top 10, not exactly where they'd want to be. Still stopped is Chad Vigor in the Angry Birds machine.
He's called out. It only took him about 5 minutes, but he's called out that he's stuck.
Well, I think at this stage, a tow from race control is the only option, as the track has hit 50 degrees. So it's going to be mighty slippery out there, and I don't know if we're going to see too much of an improvement in the times we currently have.
Anyone who's done a lap while this car's been there before it was spotted by race control has been pretty fortunate. Red flag is called by Michael Korolev, so this lap that was just begun for the Ultice Esports car is set to be abandoned. Back to the pits we go.
Indeed. Going to have to make their way past very slowly the zone where Chad Vigor is stopped. And I'm not hearing much of an engine sound coming from that Ferrari either, so I get the feeling that he's not going to be able to get it going again.
Defense then. The Altus 83 certainly gave it a real good rub coming through top of the mountain, which is adventurous for in-lap. Look at this, thanks to Modem Simulation. This is actually Chad Vigor. Wow, good job from Jay to actually get this up, considering it's been quite some time. That's the last bit of praise I'm giving Jay today. So we picked this up coming through past McPhillamene, Reed Park, or McPhillamene a second.
Looked pretty reasonable across the top. I think he might have glanced off the wall coming through the S's.
Wide.
Oh no! So there we go. Just I think the rears. Oh, that was very close.
Oh my! 3 cars there would have had a heart in their mouth moment. The first of which being the Alta Century, who just can't get off our screens, and then 2 more coming through. Only just found a car's width of a gap to filter in on the inside.
Goodness me, how close do you want to get? Brodie Kaseki and Jackson Harlow.
Oh well, if you want two drivers to try and avoid a crash and find the car's width, it's those two, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Let's see how Harlow did it. Watch for the Ferrari. Yep, there we go. Good reactions there from Jackson, and he still managed to slow it down in time for the dipper.
Kaseki, I reckon, was about a millimetre away from cleaning up the front right quarter panel of Vigor's Angry Birds racing machine.
Well, we're coming up on 52 minutes to go in this session, and as you're about to see, the field lined up in pit lane. The safety car's going to exit the pits and check, see if everything is spick and span, but Chad Vigor is still stopped at the dipper. Looks like he's just not able to get that car going. I think the only option he's going to have is to escape back to the pits and end the session for that car.
Yeah, 100%. And remember my theory last red flag session?
Oh, no.
Why? Don't get it. Oh, no.
Oh,
Stop,
yeah.
stop.
You can't afford to go too far up the track the wrong way, otherwise iRacing will automatically black flag you. He's got to be careful here. No,
there he goes.
Disqualified.
No, come on, all of that.
Man.
Thank you.
Could have just done a 6-point turn.
Oh, that's a shame.
Oh, man.
What a shame for Vigor. Yeah, remember my theory last red flag session, why do I need that safety car lap? It's easy for race control to not realize there's a car stopped on the racetrack. Well, this was a good point, wasn't it? Because Vigor was there for a long time.
Yeah, certainly was. And of course, you do have to depend on the drivers as well to call out to race control when there is a problem. Well, Chad Vigor ended up doing that in the end, but that's going to be the session over completely for the Angry Birds racing car, and they sit in 42nd on the timesheets at the moment. Oh, hello. Race control has just cleared black flags for the Angry Birds car, so we might just see them back out on track.
Your thoughts on that?
None.
Well,
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't mind it. It wasn't him being dangerous. I think it was a lapse, a little mistake. Track was clear. No one else was on the track. He was in a very, very awkward spot. Looks like a family entry. This one, Chad and Rick Vigor, and then Nick Whistler as well, whose name I've never learned how to pronounce correctly.
Yeah, Nick Eisler, the founder of Angry Birds Racing, getting back into the driver's seat once again, and his last name is a bit of an enigma even for me. But it looks like Nick Parker has surveyed the track and found it to his liking. He's going to bring it back into the pits, and then green flag will be declared. We'll get back out onto the track for the last 50 minutes of this session. Paul Nichols, who brought out the last red flag, is making his way towards the end of the pit lane to join the line as the cars come out of the pits and leading the way.
Really got to give that mouse a good click, don't you, Rhys? Click, click, click to get through all the 40-odd cars in the pit lane.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, some frenzied clicking there, and for some reason the mic is still picking up a lot of background noise like it wasn't able to before, so I might have to fix that for the race tomorrow. Have a look at this. This is a bit awkward.
Sheet update, by the way. Ugh. Almost an Altus crash there. As Astro Gaming Officer T-Sports the fastest with a 202.749. United Sim Sports sit second. Logitech G, Altus Esports sit third. Last Minute Racing are up to fourth, that's Kaseki. And the Evolution Racing team are fifth and sixth. R1 Sim Sports, TM Racing, Synergy Sim Racing are in ninth, and Simrigs.com DPR are 10th. Just about a second covering that top 10.
Indeed. And a second around a track like Mount Panorama is nothing to sneeze at. You'd think it's a huge gap at other tracks, but this track is so easy to mess up at some point along the way, and it's so dependent on your rhythm throughout the entire lap that you'll see somewhat exaggerated times between drivers. A second covering the top 10, actually really quite competitive around a place like this.
This is a log jam behind. Cooper Webster is trying to give himself some space to the cars in front. Everyone else just seems happy to sit behind him. And Harlow wants to get a move on. He's going to go by Postlethwaite. There's some very experienced drivers in this group. Mick Knight just in there as well. Tyrone Anderson abandons it, comes to pit lane. And everyone queue up. Yeah, this is not going to end well for some of these guys at the end of this lap.
Monza 2019, anyone? Looks like everyone just bunching up to try and beat the car with the gap ahead. So Harlow's going to lead them away. Just behind him is Glenn Postlethwaite in the Synergy number 40. And they're followed by McKnight, Tim Ballinger, Paul Warwick, and Max Havett, the last car in this train. But it seems like the gaps are pretty consistent down Mountain Straight. It's when they get to the top of the mountain that you're going to see those gaps start to ebb and flow, and maybe some issues for the drivers behind if one of them up ahead makes a mistake. Andrew Carl in the number 43 got his lap off to a pretty good start. He's going to come up to the first sector line now, almost getting into the wall. That's a 46.6 in the first sector. That is quite competitive. We've mostly been seeing 47 zeros.
Now, I'll tell you who's, I reckon, got closer to him on this lap is Jackson Harlow and Cooper Webster. They started the lap. Oh, hang on, they've just abandoned it now. So Carl's left with no one chasing him.
Unfortunate for those guys, but Carl's going to keep going here. Nice exit from Forest Elbow, and he's going to get a bit of a draft from Thomas Hinds as well at the start of Conrod Straight. That draft is now gone. But up to 260 kilometers an hour for Andrew Carl. We're thinking this lap is not going to be an improvement for him, so he might just bring it into the pits at the end of this lap. Alexander Bird currently sitting in lucky 13th, and he'll want to get going as well. Gets let through by another BMW. And a 47.7 for the first sector. I don't know if he's going to be able to line that one up for a good lap. Carl's just crossed the line to do a 2:03.003. That's very close to the time that he had done just before. Got to say, if things were a little bit different, that might well have been a lunge at second, maybe even pole. P15, meanwhile, for Glenn Postlethwaite in Synergy number 40. Good time from him. Now let's focus on Alexander Bird. I think this lap is looking a bit slower.
It is. Just been following him for the last little while down the hill. He's a little bit conservative. So all three Synergy cars on the side of the top 15 for, I think, the first time in qualifying. Zuva Racing get pushed out as a result. That's Hinds and Loxton who've been in that car in qualifying so far. So you'd expect them to be given it a good run. So already we're starting to see this fight shape up, and 15th down to 17th are separated by 200ths of a second.
That's very close there for the final spot in the top 15 shootout. It's currently held by Posy, and behind him, Brett Loxton and Jason Bentz, Zuva Racing and XCM. Well, Alexander Bird has used that lap we were just watching as a warm-up, and he started off again. Dennis Gatterick, the first driver to set a qualifying time in this session, still in P8, still inside the top 10, and a little glance off the wall there with big oversteer through Reed Park. I think that might have put paid to that, but Gatterick is looking pretty fast here.
He is. And it was that very, very first lap, wasn't it? Tom Merritt jumped in. Wow! Cooper Webster and Rhys King just went for a bit of side-by-side right in front of Gatterick then. Through the S's, and this is how close he got.
That was contact, I reckon.
If this was in real life, that left side mirror is gone.
Yes, indeed.
So that lap is held up so well from Gatterick. I'm actually surprised a little bit by that, but I guess we shouldn't be, because the track temp is rising, and it's going to get tougher and tougher to put down the laps, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. Once you see the track getting to around 47 to 50 degrees, you start to get less improvement in times as the grip just falls away. The sun beats down on the racing line and makes the rubber hotter, slicker. Gatterick abandons that particular run. Alexander Bird, meanwhile, coming down Conrod, sits in 13th. They're still in with a shot for the top 15 shootout, but again, they need to be constantly trying to improve their times if they want to stay safe. Out of the chase, he comes. 47.1, 29.0. Those are reasonably competitive sector times, but it's not going to be enough for Alexander Bird, bringing it back in. Here's another machine at the back of the field at the moment. Brett Barker, driving with Andrew Hayes and John Baldwin.
What else? Pick up Tyron Anderson for us if you can, Jay. Bit of damage to the back of this car. I wonder if he's found the fence. Left side rear is knocked in, and the glass, or whatever it's made of, the back windshield, doesn't exist anymore. So he's found the wall somewhere. And... oh yeah, that car's not driving straight either. So it's found the fence in a pretty decent way at some point.
I can see where it happened. It was at the exit of turn 1. You see Anderson already having those issues at Griffins, but he actually ran a bit too wide out of Hell Corner off that green AstroTurf and caught the grass straight into the wall. Doesn't look like there was actually any contact with the rear to make that windshield smash. Oh no, yes, actually the rear of the car did hit the wall first. You're about to see that here on the modem simulation replay. Just a bit too wide. Wheels spin up. He almost got it recovered, but there. That was the left rear into the wall, and that would have ruined the rear suspension.
Anderson. Team Tyrone Anderson. The only team without a time registered so far.
Yeah, struggling a little bit there. Not able to get a time on the board in the first half of the session. But we are now in the final half and about to get up to 40 minutes to go. It's been quite the interesting session so far. We've got many cars in contention for this pole position from 4 or 5 different teams, all looking to try and improve. Brett Barker's going to bring it across the line, but unfortunately, off track at the final corner, that time is not going to register, so they're going to be staying down there in 44th position for at least a few minutes longer.
Rhys Keane and Misdale should be closer to the top 15 than they are. They're 22nd at the moment. And they're about 0.7 of a second away.
Yes, indeed. They're driving with Neil Pearson as well. Simrigs.com DPR, a team that has been on the rise in V8 Scops and in various series around the AusNZ Sim community, bringing their white machines to Bathurst on the BMW M4. You would think that they'd be a bit closer to the top 15 than they are, but Rhys Keane having one more lob here with the track temperature continuing to rise. It's now at 51 degrees. It's going to be a tough job here for Rhys.
It was his first lap of the first lap of the session for this car that was their quickest, much like we've seen from I think a couple of entries now. Track temps 51. I think we started out at 47. Way, there he goes! Big contact for Keane. That's a lose in a big way. Somehow the engine is still alive, but Rhys Keane has lost that all sorts of badly. Rear end just started to overstep, and he just could never gather it up, and it's one of those crashes that ends up being a very high-speed drive into a fence.
Yes, indeed. It's one of the places up the top of the mountain that you really don't want to make a mistake. And that hot track temperature showing its fangs. Off the curb he goes and down through metal grate. Catches the curb, but yeah, there's just a slight bit of oversteer when he got to the exit curb and a big whack of the wall. Fortunately, he's been able to get it facing the right direction, but he is currently stopped just over the McPhillamy Park crest, so we might be seeing a third red flag in this session.
100%. Just need him to come over the radio and let race control know he's there. And we might get this red flag called. There it is. Red flag is out. Third one of the day, and that's the biggest of the day.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a few repairs to that wall as well, I think, with the hit that copped. And basically no front end left on that BMW M4 now. The inline 6 engine is available for all the world to see, and creating quite a cloud of acrid smoke up at the top of Mount Panorama. The drivers just coming through on their in-laps, going to have to find their way through that. Fortunately, Rhys Keane off the circuit completely, so there's no danger of any further incidents there.
Just noting a couple other infringements we've had in this session. Car 99 and Car 83 for contact and a pit entry infringement respectively. Both had their fastest times deleted. So that's TM Racing, which is Gatoric.
Oh. Okay.
And the 83 is Cooper Webster.
The pole car. So right, we're hearing Webster is still on pole on merit from one of the times he initially set, but the time that you are seeing at the top of the timesheets there, the 2:07.75, Webster actually set that time by going into the pit lane, and that's something that that the drivers have to consider at Mount Panorama. If you take the pit entry at full chat, you can actually set a faster lap time than you would if you'd stayed out onto the circuit. So race control is wise to that. They've seen that being exploited in the past, and deleting that fastest time there for Cooper Webster. But number 83 still on provisional pole.
So Gatoric will lose the 2:03.519 he did at the very start of the session. His next best was his next lap, 2:03.695, which would only drop him one spot. But it does mean we're going to have to pay attention, because there might be a couple cars that could fall victim if they lose their fastest lap later on in the session.
Yes, indeed. We'll be keeping an eye on what race control are saying and doing. We're in for quite the last half hour of this session as those teams on the verge of the top 15 all try to make their way in.
See more and more mistakes like we saw then from Rhys Cassell. As you just start to push the car, all you need is the tiniest bit too much speed. You pick up the throttle a fraction of a second too early, you brake a fraction of a second too late, and you'll find yourself off the track, or if you're unfortunate enough to do it on the mountain, you'll find yourself in the fence, just like Keane did there.
Well, the field waits again at the end of pit lane. Get going again for one final lot of running, potentially. We'll see if we get another red flag before the end. The track temp continuing to rise there with now at 52 degrees. Fortunately, it seems the wind is not that bad, only 5 kilometers an hour from the southeast, so that'll translate to a little bit of a tailwind down Conrod Strait, but not so much that it will disproportionately affect the times.
To improve, I think, with 34 minutes left, everyone's going to be going at it to try and improve. But track temp... Hang on. Some clarification from race control to the no escape rule. But with only 30 minutes left and 52-degree track temp, it's going to be really hard to improve. It's going to be tough to find space, and going to be tough to nail it so much that you can go quicker than some of the times set on a 47-degree track temp.
Yeah, I'll be very surprised if we see anyone improve substantially on the times they've already set. I guess what you'd want to be looking out for is drivers more towards the bottom of the timesheets. The Tyrone Anderson car still has to set a time. We still got the Banter Alliance, Gentleman Sim Racing Club cars, the Riot Sim Racing car, looking to improve. I mean, basically everyone outside a 2-minute 6-second lap time could stand to improve here, as we are now back out on the circuit. The green flag flies. Leading the way out, Scott Rankin. Currently down in 36th position. They're going to be one of the cars going hell for leather to try and improve, and with a clear track ahead of him, I reckon Rankin stands a fair chance of maybe getting into the top 30.
This will be curious though, because, well, it's a car that's the bottom half of the field leading the rest of the field out on the session. The car next in line is Brett Loxton, who's 16th. In terms of fastest laps, 2:04.0 for Loxton and Hins, 2:05.6 for Rankin. So it could get a little bit dicey there if Loxton doesn't give himself enough room.
Yeah, Rankin's going around the track at a fair amount of pace. He's not going super slow on his outlap, but then neither really is Loxton. Rob Carmichael behind Loxton trying to give himself some space, but he's got Tim Ballinger and Tim Crowley right behind him, almost starting to queue up. So this final phase of qualifying, probably going to see a couple of comings together and drivers desperate to get their time on the board and improved. I mean, for now, it looks like the gap to Rankin that Brett Loxton has is enough, and they're not going to catch each other up on their hot laps unless Rankin makes a mistake, touch wood.
Oh, 001, Paul Nichols is in a precarious position.
Oh, no. Oh, that's right in the middle of the track. That metal grate to boot, so these cars will be slowed right down and having to make their way past. Oh, man. That gentleman, Sim Racing Club 001, has had a very tough time in this qualifying session. Already brought out one red flag. Let's see what happened to him.
Running. Red flag called.
That's number 4 of the day.
Well, I said it's going to get more spicy as this one goes on, as drivers push hard and track temps rise. You said it as well. Here we go. It took us about a minute.
So what happened to Paul Nichols here? Didn't get into the wall. I think it's a similar thing to... Oh! Turned hard left. Was that a hardware failure? Because that... Yeah, that is not a normal line to be taking, going narrow there. You'd usually swing out wide. Let's have a look, see if the steering wheel tells the story. No, maybe some oversteer. I'm not sure. That's a bizarre incident.
Really bizarre. A little bit of that oversteer and then just, couldn't correct it. That's a harrowing sight, though.
Yeah, staring down the racetrack at cars coming up towards you. So this will be another short delay here.
The fight's all going to be top 15, the final few spots now, because noting a lot of the fast drivers have pretty much pulled the pin on the session, and they're getting ready for the shootout. Cooper Murray, Alnabi, Kaseki, Ritchie have all left. And there's that gap between 15th and 16th.
Yeah, right.
Almost non-existent.
Yeah, I think Brett Loxton will be ruining that red flag because he would have had a chance to improve there, but he's going to have to bring it straight back into the pits there behind Scott Rankin.
17th is only another 100th or so away as well. Still that 200th per second gap between the three of them that I talked about a little bit earlier on in the session. Talk Inc. are sitting in 19th as well in the Lamborghini. Mitchell McLeod's had full access all session long at that car. Can he find 0.2 of a second, 2.5 tenths to knock himself inside the top 15?
Well, I know from commentating on a lot of Mitchell's exploits over the years that he can pull one out when it is required, but it's some very tough competition in that part of the field for that final spot. Still, it would be nice to see the Talk Inc. Lambo in the top 15, at least get some Lamborghini representation up at the top of the field, because at the moment, in that top 15, it's pretty much all about BMW and Ferrari.
Certainly is. How many Lamborghinis are inside the top 15? I don't know if you can figure this out.
0.
Okay, there you go. So Talk Inc.'s the highest.
The number 1 Lambo in the field, flying the flag. The car in 31st position is also a Lamborghini. That is the JTJ racing car. So I think we have 3 Lamborghinis in the session, or on the grid for the 12-hour, and I think about the same number of Mercedes for at my last count.
second red flag that the 001 has caused this session. Caused the first one as well, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Not having a good day out, gentlemen. Sim Racing Club.
Yeah, well, shows how difficult it is to really hook up a lap around Bathurst. I mean, especially with the track just getting worse and worse as time goes on, and it's easy to make a mistake.
Those jumped out of the session as well. In fact, Paul Nichols and Dylan Gray, two of the drivers of that 001 car have jumped out of the session. Frank Kodak, I think, still remains. He's also the third driver for that team. I think for those top drivers who know they're locked into the top 15 spots, the top half a dozen or so on the sheets, jump into maybe a bit of more of a friendly test session track temp, and then you can really try to dial yourself in ahead of the shootout, because you're only going to get one lap in that shootout with all the eyes watching.
Yeah, it's going to be one single lap and no more. You're going to have to nail it. All right, hearing some revs rising in pit lane as the cars get ready to go back out. Benjamin Siren in the 9.5 Sim Sport is the closest Ferrari to the camera that you can see in the 9.51, which for a time held that quickest Sector 2 time across the top of the mountain. And finally we are away again. Siren leads them away. He's got John Merritt in the TM Racing Ferrari just behind, taking over from Dennis Gatterick, and hoping to at least get close to that 2:03.6 that is their last legitimate lap time.
Bubble for the 15s. I would suggest Fusion Sim Racing, Synergy Sim Racing 3, Zuva Racing 209, XCM, and Car in the fence.
We were just looking at Benjamin Siren, and unfortunately he's looped it there at the cutting. Managed to mostly keep it out of the wall though, so he's going to wait for the field to go by, and he'll be able to get that going again. Just gets himself nicely out of the way in that little Marshall's niche there. Just avoided backing it into the wall as well. Very good car placement from Benjamin Siren.
Look at the camera middle of the dash there.
Yeah, you got good eyes in the Ferrari. If you want to reverse, of course, has a reverse camera, as the majority, if not all, cars do in sports car racing these days. John Merritt continues in the very loudly coloured Ferrari there. Echuca Toyota emblazoned on the front bonnet. And he's going to line it up now to start his lap. It's going to be a tough one, as we've said, with the hot track temperature, but there's plenty of rubber there on the racetrack. And out of Murray's he comes to start things off. That car currently sitting in 8th position would be 9th with the lap time deletion taken into account. And a nice clean exit from Hell Corner to start things off.
Alright, let's get a decent run in to the end. 22 minutes, John Merritt trying to elevate his car out of 8th and maybe just be a little bit more comfortable. I think they should be anyway though, but you never know what could happen at the end of this session. Using up all the track out of turn 2. Really tricky to get it slowed down, especially on a hot track into the cutting as you're trying to turn the car to the left as well. Awkward bump as you get back to the right and you begin the really heavy descent up across and under the tree, and now you're at the top of the mountain. You can relax somewhat.
Yeah, just a little bit. Faster corners and the walls are very close up McPhillamy. I love that camera angle. You get to see just how much speed is involved. And across the top of Skyline, down into the S's, uses the curb very nicely, does John Merritt, and tips it into the dipper nicely as well. Flat out through this left-right combination, and then on the brakes for Forest Elbow. The track is like a cliff coming into Forest Elbow. Even on the sim, in this laser scan version, you don't quite get a sense for how steep it really is.
Postlethwaite's had a lose.
Oh no.
Damage to the right rear, car's crabbing. That's happened just before the big tree. And I think he's going to struggle to get back to the pits. That car's 15th in the session.
Oh no. Problems for the Synergy Sim Racing number 40 as we continue to focus on cars coming up towards the end of their laps. Daniel Yeaman currently in 29th. Postlethwaite has made it through McPhillamy Park and he's now making his way down the mountain. I think that car will make it back to the pits for Daniel Yeaman. It's an improvement to 22nd, 2:04.2 there.
Chad Viggers had a lose as well.
Oh no.
Postlethwaite just choked past him. He's missing the front engine cover. And Vigor becomes another victim. This is a similar spot to where he lost it earlier on, about 100 metres further up the track. And I think this time he's going to be able to get away with it. He's got some runoff there to get the car pointed in the right direction.
Was
wonder
this
if he got a
contact?
nudge.
Oh no.
Oh no.
No contact
yeah.
there. But, taking a bit too much curb there through the left-hander. And almost in the exact same spot that he had his incident earlier on.
Tell you what, he drove the wrong way around the track again to get to where he was. He's got going the right way without incident this time. There's Postlethwaite. We already had the crash at that point.
Well, we're going to see how it happened then. This is when the car was still clean, and Postlethwaite got a lot of pressure on his head right now in these last 20 minutes of the session. Oh, whoa, okay, that's what happened. There was a pile-up already happening there at the cutting. Rob Carmichael at a stop.
Bit I did not see. Wow.
Okay, well, we'll take a look at how that happened then. Carmichael, I think...
That exit behind him there, did you see that? And, yeah, just lost it. Kept it off the fence until he got collected.
Yeah, Daniel Hall, very quick on the brakes there to keep himself out of his hair. Let's have a look here at the view from inside Mr. Hall's BMW. We're going to see Carmichael have the incident just ahead of him there. Oh, yeah, that's the exit for Daniel Hall that you were talking about earlier, Ryan. And then, oh, hang on a minute, stop. And there we go. Oh, he might have gotten a bit of contact there from Postlethwaite from behind.
Yeah, potentially. Lucky they can get back to pits and they can chuck a spare car in.
Yes,
in this
indeed.
session, everyone's kept going from that little crazy minute or so there with about 4 or 5 cars picking up damage. Mitch McLeod, meanwhile, for talking, just did a time to put him 1 spot higher, 2:04.092, and now there is 600ths of a second, covering 4 cars from 15th to 19th, and only 600ths from 14th to 15th.
Oh boy, this is going to be quite the end to the session. Another loudly coloured Ferrari there, you can pick out from a mile away. Martin Crisp. Setting 47.7, 29.8 so far on this lap. Might be an improvement, but we're not quite sure. We'll find out in just 1 corner's time. He's going to commit to the end of this lap. Sitting there in 24th position. Is this going to be an improvement for Martin Crisp? Across the line he comes, a 2:06.351. That is not an improvement at all. In fact, a 2:06.3 would put you near to the back of the grid, so he's going to have to find a couple more tenths there.
Jason Bentz, XCM, 16th, just 17th, just got back out on track. I was wondering where he was. He wasn't out there for a little while, but he's back firing now, so it's all attack for that half a dozen or so teams fighting for those spots. 38th at the moment, Richard Mitchum. That's a name that rolls off the tongue, I like it. Looking to try and find an improvement in the session late on. Gonna struggle, but...
Smooth entry into Forest Elbow. And out as well. Nice clean lines, but we'll have to wait and see if this is going to improve his 38th place position.
Racing with Mark Fee and Sean Chappell. Sorry, that's a team above. No, he's not. He's racing with Daniel Birchnell and David Riddell for TGR SCI 1.
So that's another Gentleman Sim Racing Club car, as that's an incident at the exit of the chase. That would be an off-track, and I think Mitchum might bring that in as Paul Warwick comes across the line to start another lap. Curtis Porter, another one of the Gentleman Sim Racing Club cars. This one's a Ferrari. Down into the 29s in Sector 2. That Ferrari still showing that it's pretty good across the top, even in these conditions. Just inside the top 40 at the moment and encountering some traffic down into the chase.
Yeah, a couple moving chicanes down at the chase because corner's not hard enough already.
It's already one of the fastest entries to a chicane in the entire world. Let's see if that damaged Curtis Porter's time somewhat. Out of Murray's and across the line he comes. It's going to be a low 206 there for Curtis Porter, 206.172. That's not going to be an improvement for him. This, on the other hand, our director is saying will be an improvement for Simon Chadwick, currently sitting in 39th place.
Hopefully Jay hasn't put the marker on him. On the brakes nicely, gets it slowed up and turned and meets both apexes beautifully. That's a solid line there from Chadwick back in 39th. Let's see what he can do then as he brings it into the last corner and out onto the main straight. 205.7 is now a 205.2 for their fastest of the session, goes 33rd.
Good improvement there for Simon Chadwick. So, 15 minutes to go in the session. The pressure is on here for the Torque Inc. car. Mitchell McLeod looking to try and get it into the top 15 and getting a little crossed up in the S's and encountering some traffic here on the run up to Forest Elbow. He won't be liking this.
No, but of course if Bollinger isn't on a lap, he's on a lap and there's no obligation for him to get by. Cloud, is he going to be able to slingshot by him here? He's certainly getting a decent tow. This might give him back all the time he lost down the mountain. He's going to have a rapid amount of speed as he jumps on the brakes in a second. If Bollinger lets him go, is that tow enough to vault McLeod up the order? C. Oh, he's wide of the apex. He just gets it slowed up, but that's throwing away the lap.
Yeah, it looks like that is the case there for Mitchell McLeod. He immediately realizes it and brings it into the pits. They're only going to be able to get one, maybe two more runs in at a lap from here with the time left. What about Braden Nash? Just inside the top 20, 29.2 in the second sector. Pretty good time there, especially considering driving the BMW. Let's see if there's an improvement for Braden.
Fine. 0.13 of a second.
204.2 for him. And that's unfortunately not an improvement for that car. A couple more opportunities left.
Track temp, 53.
Oh,
That's
no.
why it's so tough for any of these drivers to improve.
Oh, Michael Angus.
Did he improve? Not
Doesn't
quite.
look like it. This car, on the other hand, did improve. Josh Morris in the Hyperdrive BMW M4. Driving with Matthew Norris, Kane Hewson, and Kobe Jordan, as you can see down the bottom of the screen. And these guys have been pushing themselves very hard over the past year. We saw some great driving from the Team Hyperdrive cars in the V8 Scops Bathurst 1000 last year. They'll be hoping for a bit more success at the mountain tomorrow. Darren Whittington, meanwhile, 43rd right now. And that Sector 1 time, 103. I don't think this is going to be a particularly competitive time from the TD Sport BMW. He's probably going to gear up and get another lap started here.
I'm just looking at all our bubble drivers at the moment. Brett Loxton, Zuva Racing on the outside looking in. Just needed 13 thousandths of a second to get up and above Synergy Sim Racing on his fastest lap earlier on. He didn't get it, and he's going to have to do it late in the session. This is a bit of a warm-up lap for him. He got close to the back of Brett Barker and decided to abandon his lap. Now he's trying again.
All right, what can the green machine do? The number 209 across the line. 208.9 on that lead-up lap, and down into Hell Corner. Working the steering wheel hard on the exit.
And we go on board for the lap. 16th place, trying to make it 15th. Brett Loxton and Thomas Hinds have had the share of the car. Loxton now has done more laps than Hinsey. It was lap 1 of the session for Loxton that put them into the 16th spot with a 204.046. All he needs is to match his lap, and if he matches it, he's bound to somewhere find that fraction better performance now that he's done this many laps in the car in this session to be able to go up above him. He needs nothing. It's not even blink of an eye. Blink of an eye, and 3 cars have already gone by with how tight it is back here. This is a good start to the lap low. What do the sector times look like?
47.2 in Sector 1. It's not quite where he needs to be, but it's still a competitive time. Working very hard across the top of the mountain. Those curbs just smash their way through the entire bodywork of the car. Pushing hard into the dipper as well. That will look like a very fast run. Runs the revs out as much as he possibly can, and control the brakes into Forest Elbow. Tips it in beautifully and out onto Conrod straight then. Second sector time there, 29.08. That's also quite competitive. We'll see if he can find that minuscule amount of time he needs to put himself into the top 15 across the crest on Conrod. His maximum velocity before hitting the braking zone, just touching 280 kilometers an hour in that Ferrari. Kisses the curb on the inside of the chase, runs out across the exit, doesn't quite maximize the curb on the left-hand side, but in the interest of stability, that's probably what he wants. And then into Murray's, pushes out. Is this enough for Brett Loxton? No, it's not. 4.3. So the pace has gone completely out of the track.
Tell you what, he was very ginger into that last corner. He had a slight slide as he tipped it through the chase as well. It's just such fine margins at this point. For Brett Loxton, for everyone on the outside looking in, be ruining not getting it in early in the session. Here's Mitchell McLeod again. Looked like he is gearing up for a lap with the way he came and approached that last corner. Indeed he is. Beginning another lap of the session, of the track, with 8 minutes left in the session.
Seeing the dash and wheel of the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo. The same sort of internals as the Audi R8 GT3. It's a bit of a tough one to get across these bumps. McLeod very smooth there through Griffins. Slight technical issue there for him as well. Hopefully that doesn't affect his lap time, but you can see just how little steering input is really required in these GT3 cars. They're built really well for handling. You're able to just tip it in and use the minimal amount of steering input. Does make the cars quite twitchy at the best of times, though, especially here across the top. McLeod riding the curves really well, but coming up on some traffic coming down the mountain, this might hurt him a bit.
That's Jeremy Wheeler in one of the Gentlemen Sim Racing Club entries.
Oh, no!
Come on! That's really, really bad awareness. McLeod showing his displeasure, and I mean, yeah, that's pretty poor from Wheeler.
Probably...
he was really dawdling on that lap as well.
Yeah. I mean, he would have known that McLeod was coming. Probably could have gone off the track in the S's to let him go, but unfortunately, that's going to mean Torque Inc. has the one single chance left to try and get into the top 15. Jason Bentz as well in the XCM car. Right on the verge.
You know what though? Sorry, Rhys. McLeod, and showing his displeasure, has... Oh, big shunt there for Wheeler. He was shredded on the circuit. I was alluding to it, and he's been absolutely clean bowled by someone else coming through. Wheeler gets deposited back to the pits. by the iRacing system, and that will probably save the skin of everyone looking for a late lap here, because otherwise you might have needed a red flag. You might there might still be a car stranded there after that hit.
Well, we'll take a look at what happened then for Mr. Wheeler, and we'll see what happened here versus Mitchell McLeod. McLeod, of course, on that fast lap and pushing very hard into the S's. Wheeler running wide out of the dipper, and McLeod going right into his rear and, well, tipping him around fully just to show his annoyance, and Wheeler trying to get it going again and parked right across the racetrack. It's a very awkward place, and oh no, that was very poorly timed there. The 173 was
Braden
that?
Braden Nash coming along with nowhere to go. Luckily, he was able to keep going.
And we'll see it from his view, and we'll see Jeremy Wheeler here starting to reverse. And I mean, Braden Nash was in the right place there, but when you're coming up on a car like that, you don't expect them to reverse into your path.
No. Couple poor choices from Jeremy Wheeler in a short space of time there. Nash is back on track, right behind Mitchell McLeod, ironically.
Yes, both cars that have had the problem with the same Ferrari. Daniel Birchnell, meanwhile, 47.3, Sector 1, 29.5, Sector 2. Let's see if this is going to be an improvement for the current 40th place car.
Well, it was only... that first sector is only 1/10 away from what we saw Loxton do a little while ago, and that lap was a 2:04.3. So if he's got on with it, this could be an astounding lap from Birchnell.
Let's have a look then. Birchnell in one of the Gentlemen's Sim Racing Club cars. Across the line, a 2:05.4 for him. And
oh, it didn't count.
No, it didn't count. Oh, that's a shame.
An off track or a contact with the fence somewhere. That is a shame. That would have given him a about 4 spots up the grid.
Yeah, that's something that they'll be ruining as we have 4 minutes to go in the session. Across the line comes one of the Ferraris to start another lap.
Change in the 15th place fight. Still nothing to split. 4 or 5 cars from 14th down to 18th.
Whoa, that's a problem there for John Piesnick in the R1 Sim Sports car. Piesnick taking over the car now from Rhys Cassell. See if they can try and improve on their P7, or maybe just to get some track time under his belt here in the Ferrari.
Comfortably in at this point. Could just be a good move for Piesnick to get some time in. Bentz and the XCM team are parked up in the lane at the moment. Are they getting a bit of an adjustment before one last dip? They're going to have to get out there pretty quickly. They're 17th on track at the moment. On the leaderboard, rather.
Yeah, the times are ticking down. And we're hearing that Mitchell McLeod's lap, on which he had the contact with Jeremy Wheeler, apparently he was on for quite a good lap at that time. So hopefully there's still enough in the track and enough in the car for Torque Inc. to get themselves into the top 15 here. It's going to be very tight.
Be of little consolation, but that 204 car that Wheeler was driving has been parked for the rest of the session by race control. Not sure McLeod's going to be happy with that though if he doesn't improve on this or the next lap.
So fast down into the S's. Mitch is pushing very hard. No. Yeah, that's lap invalidated there for Mitch, and I think that's going to be session over for Torque Inc. They won't make it into the shootout from here.
Need a bit of damage to the right front. I think he'll continue on. He's got to, but you're right. That probably is going to be the difference for him. Carrying a little bit of damage is going to make it really tough for Traxxam right now to eclipse that gap. You've already got to pull the lap of your life out to overcome the hot track temp to go and improve on a previous lap from earlier in the session. With damage, it's just increased tenfold in terms of difficulty. Dale Braid, 36 on track at the moment for him in the XCM2 car. Quite a long way off XCM number 1. 2:05.3 best in the session for this car. Him and Jai Potts have both had a crack, but it's Delbury that is the fastest of the two.
Indeed. Let's see, with just one corner to go, if he can improve on that 2:05.3 they're currently on. Clean line through Murray's. Very difficult to line up that corner. The curb is quite early, but across the line he goes, a 2:05.5. It's not going to be an improvement for Dale Breed, and I think that's where they are going to stay. You already have to be on Conrod straight on your outlap now if you want to get one more lap in. Paul Warwick in another Ferrari. Happy birthday to Paul Warwick, we have to say, from all of us here at SimSpeed, and quite a lovely looking car too, using those new iRacing spec maps to see that silver fish there. I really do like that car.
Yeah, it is a brilliant looking machine. Jason Bentz did get back out on track. He's just started his lap, so he's going to have a crack. They're all on the hunt still. Try and take this 15th spot away from Postlethwaite. He's got the pressure on him to try and put in a late lap. He's, I think, just going to sneak to the line. He's coming through the last corner now. There's Jason Bentz and the XCM number 100. But further up the racetrack, Brett Loxton and the Zuva Racing Machine. I think locked it up coming into the chase, but again it slowed down rather. Is there a late twist? Can he find the tiniest fraction of a second that he needs to put himself in the shootout through the last corner?
And across the line, a little bit crossed up on the exit. No, unfortunately, lap invalidated for Brett Loxton. So close was that Zuva Racing 209 to getting it done, but not to be. Simon Francis then in the Lamborghini for real bad racing. And that's not a comment from me, that is the name for the team. Yes, McLeod is done. Bit of oversteer there, 206. For Simon Francis, almost an improvement there in that Lamborghini.
Jason Bentz coming down Conrod. He was ultra close to the fence coming through Forest Elbow as well. Braden Nash is going to complete his session in 19th. Doesn't find a late improvement.
No improvement either for the Riot Sim Racing Black either.
Jason Bentz, personal best, second sector. Is this the late twist? This car is currently 17th race, 204.057. It needs 204.031 to go into the top 15. Shootout, 204.170. It was a good lap, though, for the track temp.
There certainly was. One of the last cars to come across the line, Michael Angus and the 144. That's a 204.92 for them, and they move up one position. Max Havett, meanwhile, in the car supporting Movember, 205.7 for him. And no improvement for that machine as we see the last few cars coming then into the pit lane to end off this session. Wow, what a fight for the top 15 positions. We've still got one car left to come across the line here, Mitch Campbell. But he's going to elect to bring it into the pits as well, and looks like that is session over. So that is positions 16 to 49 to 51. Sorry, completely decided. But Ryan, we've still got to check in with the top 15 cars from this session. We have a top 15 shootout coming up very shortly.
We do, and this is going to be so intense. For a moment, Postlethwaite in the Synergy Sim Racing 3 car could breathe a sigh of relief after sitting 15th for so much of that session by the skin of their teeth. But now, the pressure's back on. They've got to perform in a one-lap shootout. Fantastic opportunity for them to improve their spot. Fantastic opportunity for everyone higher up than them to lose out on spots they'd got in this qualifying session. This is how it looked at the end of 90 minutes.
Indeed, with Astro Gaming Altus Esports setting provisional pole there in the qualifying session. Cooper Webster putting in a great time there despite their actual fastest time being deleted. And Simrigs.com DPR 72 making it into the top 10 as well. That is an excellent run there from Briggs, Dyson and Worley. Looking a bit further on back from 11th place, Synergy Sim Racing 1 with with Burke, Ross and Freer. A second covering the top 10, but who knows? The times might be even closer in this top 15 shootout session coming up, and you see just how close the gap was for 15th there between Synergy Sim Racing 4 and the Zuva Racing Machine, with the XCM, Torque Inc., NSR all trying their best to gain that extra 10th or so, but they just couldn't get it done.
No, not quite. To the top 20 there as well. And then you've moved down, and this is how the rest of the field are going to line up tomorrow. 21st through 30th. Only 0.4 of a second to cover these 10 cars. It's so tight everywhere in the field. Tomorrow's race is going to be absolutely outstanding to see. And I think the first few laps are going to be crazy tight and crazy tough to navigate.
Indeed, the two blank spots you see there in 24 and 25 are the third XRC machine and the AutoServe Racing 333. That's the BMW with the Movember sponsorship. 9.5 getting into the top 30 as well, which is good to see. And their sister car there in 34th place, with Gentlemen's Sim Racing Club making up the end of the top 40. It was a very difficult session for those guys. They had a bit of trouble keeping the cars going, with the final 10 cars then. Angry Birds Racing getting into 44th position. Real Bad Racing, not that bad, in 45th, with the field rounded out by the Banter Alliance machine and the Gentlemen's Sim Racing Club car, with Paul Nichols at the wheel in that session. Unfortunately, that car bringing out 2 red flags. They could not get the car around the track in a reasonable state. But for now, we're going to take a very quick break here on SimSpeed TV. We're going to be back very shortly, though. Do not go away, because the top 15 shootout is on. This is the Smith & Sons Bathurst 12-hour. We'll see you very shortly.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got really outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to him.
Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go.
Oh no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
You're watching the Smith & Sons Bathurst 12-hour, brought to you by Oceanic Sim Racing and Aussie Mixed and Fixed iRacing Leagues. We've just seen the qualifying session take part, 90 minutes, and it was a very close fought fight for that 15th position, the golden ticket into the top 15 shootout, which is about to get going here on SimSpeed TV. If you're just joining us, I'm Rhys Gardner, and Ryan Jones is alongside me in the commentary box. Well, Ryan, we've already had a little bit of drama at the start of this top 15 shootout session. Brodie Kaseki, who managed to put the last-minute racing entry into P4, I think, has unfortunately joined this session in the wrong car. They were in the BMW, now they're in the Mercedes, so that's going to put paid to their advances.
Yeah, that's a big mistake for that team that would have been contending for the front couple of rows, I think. And Kaseki will be a bit disappointed with that error. I think they're going to get given a run here, but I doubt they're going to do any good because they're in a car they have not driven or practiced for this event, and probably don't have quite as good a setup that they would have had for this event either. So I think they're starting 15th either way.
Yeah, looks like it. But the first car out in this session is going to be the number 40 Synergy Sim Racing 3 with Glenn Postlethwaite at the wheel. Just managed to scrape in by the skin of their teeth. They had sat in 15th position in qualifying for so long, and despite the repeated attempts by those behind them and how close the gap was, they were just not able to overcome that Synergy car. And so thankfully for them, they've managed to get two cars into the top 15 shootout. Those are the conditions, and the track temp is, I think, fortunately for the drivers, a bit lower than it was before.
47 degrees is back to where it started at for the first qualifying session, isn't it? So we should see times pretty close to what we saw at the start of that session. Low 2:03s. Waiting for this first car to get out. Let's get the session underway. It'll be Synergy Sim Racing who lead us out. We'll be going in reverse order of where they qualified. So 15th out first out last. Now, the track heats up again. That could be an issue for those quick guys, but it's 3:03 in sim time in the afternoon, so we would expect the track to slowly cool off, or at least just maintain its temp.
Yeah, and I think with only one car really hot lapping on track at a time, there's not going to be as much of a chance for heat to get worked into the racetrack. So we'll see how the temperature evolves over the course of this session, but it looks like everyone is currently in, and in the next couple of minutes we should be getting going into the 2-hour qualifying session where Oceanic Sim Racing's race control are going to manually bring every car out onto the circuit, give them the call, and they'll be able to get out there and get themselves ready for their single chance at pole for the Bathurst 12-hour. In terms of who is competing for that pole position, we've already seen that the two Logitech G Altus Esports cars are really competitive here with the number 83, the Astro Gaming entry, getting put on pole position, but they have got quite a bit of competition from behind with the United Sim Sports car of Harlow, El Nabi, and Philcell, and they've also got to think about the Synergy car, of course, as well. They've also got a couple of Evolution Racing Team entries in there looking to spoil the party too. Think about the R1 Sim Sports entry as well. Rhys Cassell, John Peasnick and company. They put themselves up quite high.
They have. I'm just listening to race control. Sorry, Rhys. Laying down the law for the field. One warm-up lap, one hot lap, and you're done. If you don't perform, you've got to go and get it done in the race tomorrow. Car 40 with the first one out. Reminder, these are the prizes on offer at the end of tomorrow's 12-hour event. Approximately $5,000 in cash and prizes, thanks to Logitech G and Astro. Brilliant prizes up for grabs for every driver that gets on the podium.
Yes, indeed. First place, and as you can see, this is per driver, so you're really getting a good amount of kit if you win this race. Each member of your team is going to get a Logitech G Pro X wireless headset, plus $150 cash and a 12-hour trophy. And in fact, every team that gets on the podium is going to get one of those trophies. It's not all there for first place, though. Second place, they'll pick up a G733 wireless headset, each valued at $300 Australian plus $100 cash. And third place, Astro Gaming has come in for that one. You'll get one of Astro Gaming's high-quality gaming headsets, the A20, plus $50 cash and a trophy each. And whether you've got 3 drivers or 4 drivers, the prize will be fulfilled. Quite a bit there for drivers to compete for. And we want to give a big thanks to Logitech G and Astro for coming on board, assisting their sponsorship for this event and providing the prizes. Really gives the drivers something to fight for tomorrow.
Certainly does. And here we go. Glenn Postlethwaite is coming out of pit lane, going to hit the track. All eyes on Synergy Sim Racing number 3.
Yeah, and quite a clean machine that Synergy Sim Racing have brought out to this Bathurst 12-hour. Bruce Kiley and Todd Parks going to be driving with Glenn Postlethwaite tomorrow, but the qualifying duties are down to Glenn. They've considered him the fastest driver in this particular car. And sussing out the racetrack, a very well-used track that we've got here in the shootout. Doesn't have quite the same racing lines that were worked into it in the qualifying session, but you can see that the rubber goes quite a bit away across the track. A bit more grip available to the drivers, and they're going to have to be extremely careful in this area up the top, especially at that wall right there. If you get a 0x contact, if you just glance off a wall, or if you dip a wheel off the circuit, your lap will be invalidated. So if you want to get a competitive lap time down, you have to be absolutely perfect at every corner.
BMW M4 GT3, a car that doesn't really exist yet in GT3 racing, does it? Being developed with iRacing and BMW. Fantastic initiative that we've got this car available to us, isn't it, Rhys? And we're seeing it being used in a shootout at Mount Panorama. Some of the best in the country at the wheel. Glenn Postlethwaite then getting his car right where he wants it. Spending a lot of time warming those tyres up, getting some temperature into the brakes as well. He wants confidence in that brake pedal when he jumps onto it into Hell Corner and at the end of Mountain Straight. There's a big stop as well in towards Griffin's Bend. About this point onwards as well, I would start Rhys gassing it up and going full pel. Postlethwaite is going to leave it as long as he can, it seems. Out of the chase. Up through the gears. He's gearing up. Here we go. First time of the day. The lap will begin for Glenn Postlethwaite. Synergy Sim Racing. What's the benchmark going to be?
What's the benchmark going to be indeed? Across the line he goes to start things off. Across the rise on the start-finish straight here at Mount Panorama. Down into Hell Corner. Oh, he got a bit crossed up on turn-in. Ran wide of the apex. Not a great start to the lap there for Glenn Postlethwaite. I just noticed a little bit of entry oversteer on that BMW. So the run down Mountain Straight is not going to be a great one. He's going to have to maximize every other corner on this lap. His first chance comes here at Griffin's. Brakes at the driveway and keeps it nice and smooth to the inside. Tiny bit crossed up on the exit. The car protesting a little over the bumps, but that's all part and parcel of the Mount Panorama experience. Nice and tight to the wall, through the cutting, flat out over the bump on the exit. Now here's one of the problem parts. Let's see how close he runs it to the wall here. Oh, just keeps out of the wall. Coming through Reed, Sulman, and then up to McPhillamy as he passes the metal grate. Big oversteer over the curb. He's had to get on the brakes a bit to stabilise the car, and he's lost a bit more time there.
Turned in too early to McPhillamy as well there, Rhys. That whole section just got it all a little bit wrong. That's going to cost him all the way at the end of this lap. He's starting to regather it now down the mountain. He was very aggressive through the dipper and into Forest Elbow. Again, he's turned in very early. But I think that's the line he wanted. He wanted to get the power down very early as well because it's the longest straight on the circuit. And he got to go all the way down corner and up the hill again. 280 kilometers they'll hit as they jump on the brakes for the biggest stop on the circuit. Such a crucial one as well. The lap is looking alright so far. It's not the best he's ever driven, but the pressure's on for these shootout laps. Gets it slowed down nicely, Rhys.
Yeah, he does indeed. A little bit chattery over the exit curbs there at the chase, but Glenn Postlethwaite just has one more corner to go, and we'll see what the pace benchmark is going to be here in the top 15 shootout. Out across the curb, over the line, it's going to be a 2:05.5 for Glenn Postlethwaite. And considering that the fastest times we were seeing in qualifying were in the low 2:03s, high 2:02s, he'll want to make things a little bit easier for him tomorrow. Next driver we're going to be focusing on is Nathan Hubbards in the Fusion Sim Racing entry. Managed to put themselves P14, and he's going to be driving with three of his teammates there down the bottom tomorrow, Burden, Gaines and Pellet. And Mr. Hubbards here showed himself to be quite a fast driver in the AMF iRacing League. Of course, Aussie Mixed and Fixed, running a fixed GT3 series and using the GTE cars as well. The Fusion Sim Racing jumping on in the purple, white and black BMW. Be interested to see if he manages to nail this one. Track temp has actually dropped, Ryan. It's 46 degrees, so Nathan Hubbards has quite the circuit now to try and stake his claim.
Surprised by that time from Postlethwaite. I thought he'd be faster at least. We'll see from Hubbards at the end of his lap whether that's representative of the track or whether that was just a poor lap from him, because it's a long way off what we saw in qualifying. Bearing in mind that a lot of the best qualifying laps came on the first lap of the session anyway, so you'd have expected 2:03s, at the least 2:04s. But let's see. Turn 1 for Hubbards is certainly better than it was for Postlethwaite. No cross up, gets the power down early, and he'll have a better run up Mountain Straight as well.
Indeed he will. It was a nice clean line through Hell Corner for Nathan. Ran out over the exit curb nicely as well. Down into Griffins, tips it in, carries the brakes a bit into the corner to help the rotation. Using the curb on the exit nicely as well. On the brakes for the cutting. Keeps it nice and smooth and almost touches the wall on the inside, but only a paper-thin margin there for Nathan Hubbards. Across the top, keeps it out of the wall. Through Reed at the top. Let's see how early the turn-in is this time for McPhillamy. Very smooth and controlled laps so far compared to Glenn Postlethwaite.
It's much better than Postlethwaite's, isn't it, Rhys? It's smooth, it's controlled. He's nailing the line. He's not over-aggressive. He's just dialing it back where he needs to and hitting his marks. And he's been pinpoint accurate so far into Forest Elbow. Beautiful. Power down. Onto Conrod we go. All the way back at the cutting. He left absolutely nothing on that inside. You would have heard me react something in the background. That was about a paper's width between his left front quarter panel and the inside wall. And that's the accuracy he's carried over the entire rest of this lap as well. Just half a sector left to go now for him. Into the chase.
Using the ABS anti-lock braking of the BMW M4 to its full capacity there. And down into the final corner. I think this is definitely going to be an improvement over Postlethwaite's time. Let's see if he can nail it. Oh, he got off track at the final corner. But he still sets a 2:04.94. That didn't count as an off track. Nathan Hubbards getting away with it there. First driver into the 2:04s. Good lap.
There you go. New benchmark. 6/10 clear of Glenn Postlethwaite's marker from Synergy Sim Racing. Now we head to Tricky Sports and Alexander Bird at the wheel for this car, for this team. Someone who spends a lot of time driving a GT machinery.
Yes, indeed. Alexander Bird making his name for himself in GT racing in AusNZ. And now he'll have a chance here at pole position for the Bathurst 12-hour. Qualifying didn't quite go Trick Esports' way. They were a bit off where they would have been expecting inside the top 10, but the lap starts then for Alexander Bird. Let's see how it goes into the first turn. Aggressive turn and keeps up the speed nicely. A little bit of oversteer on the exit, but he manages it very nicely. And that's a good exit down Mountain Straight to start things off.
Bit of a controlled slide, wasn't it, as he got that power down. Did nothing but help him, I dare say. Really found the limit there. And into Griffin's Bend, picking out that driveway as his braking reference. Hooks it up very nicely to the apex. That's the best we've seen so far through Griffin's Bend. What about the cutting? How close is he going to cut it to the inside wall?
Oh.
He's hit it. He gave it a nudge.
Oh dear. I did hear some contact sound there. We'll see if that works out on his end. Bit of oversteer coming over the crest. He's going to see through the rest of this lap, but we won't find out until the start-finish line whether or not this lap is actually valid, but he is looking very quick across the top and diving down into the S's. Pushing the front end of the car incredibly hard there and using all of the road on the inside of the dipper.
Headed beautifully at the dipper. The left front almost cornered around the fence majestically, but he's got it wrong at Forest Elbow. Too shallow on the entry, had to slow it up too much. And that's going to delay his throttle application as well. The lap's getting away from him a bit here now.
Yeah, it is. Over the crest on Conrad. See what his top speed is like. Should just touch 280 before he enters the braking zone. But no, 271 is the speed trap. Out of the chase, let's see if he brings it into the pits or if he sees this lap through to the end. He's going to see it through to the end. This might be a valid lap from Alexander Bird, despite cutting it very fine in the cutting of all corners. Across the line he goes, and a 2:04.378 for the Trick Esports machine. Great time, and you could see just how hard he was pushing to get that done.
Yeah, I think he's fortunate there. There was certainly a couple of mistakes we picked up on, but he's got away with it at the cutting for sure. And a lot of time, I think, left on the board at Forest Elbow. And all the way up Conrad, that's probably affected him. But 2:04.3, it's a very good marker. He's starting at least 12th in this one. At least 13th, I should say. I dare say a couple of drivers might struggle to hit that marker. Luke Rosella, next up on the racetrack. BMW Team Schnitzel, my favourite team.
Very tasty looking car there. And very clean livery. Do feel like a bit of a schnitty, but that will wait for another time. Some final tyre warming for Luke Rosella before he gets this lap off to the most optimum start he can. Hard on the power in the BMW. We've only seen BMWs so far in this session. We do have a couple of Ferraris and a surprise Mercedes lined up. First turn then for Luke Rosella. Very clean line through and just touching the grass on the exit. That is optimal there for the Team Schnitzel machine.
Ah yes, Kaseki in the Mercedes by accident. We'll be very interested to see how that lap goes. But Rosella, all the focus on him and his BMW at the moment. A little bit wide, too wide. He's missed the apex. That's going to destroy his first sector. And going to be very hard to come back from that. Completely wide of the apex there. Just too deep on the brakes.
Yeah, lines it up nicely for the cutting, straight lines the exit, but he would have lost at least 5 or 6 tenths from that alone, maybe a second. So this is going to be a tough job for Luke Rosella in these last two sectors. A 47.7 in Sector 1 and pushing very hard, just jumping on the brakes, coming into McPhillamy. That's a clean line through there. Uses the curb beautifully as well. How hard does he push down into the S's? Tiny bit of oversteer as he came onto the flat just before the dipper.
Oversteer through the S's, don't you? There's a lot of rotation that needs to happen very quickly in both directions, and he's beautiful down the bottom as well. I reckon he looked one of the fastest across the top. He carried that throttle for so long before he lifted off at the very top of the mountain. This looks good from Rosella, but how much has turn 2 cost him?
That question will be answered.
Of a shootout race, the pressures of a shootout. One tiny mistake can throw it away, can't it?
Yeah, certainly can. And I think Rosella will be ruining that mistake as he comes up to the final corner. What could have been here for BMW Team Schnitzel into Murray's corner. Just catches the curb on the inside and across the line he comes. It's going to be a 2:04.962. That puts them behind the Fusion Sim Racing entry of Nathan Hubbards. But I think without that mistake at Griffin's, he probably would have been on to be level with the trick car.
Certainly should have been second, very much could have been contending with the Trick Esports machine up front. So now our second Synergy Sim Racing car of the session, this one being piloted by Wayne Burke.
Indeed, and I'll correct a mistake from just before. There are actually 3 Synergy Sim Racing cars here in the top 15 shootout. The number 40 we just saw do that first time. We're going to have the number 14 do their lap now, and later on we're going to be seeing the number 88, possibly with Brenton Hobson at the wheel of that one. But Wayne Burke is the one we're going to be focusing on for now. Once again, oh my goodness, that livery looks beautiful on that BMW M4. Across the line he comes to start his lap. What's it going to be for Wayne Burke?
Brake marker, that halfway between the 100 and the 50 for turn 1. And that's pretty accurate. Dialed it in nicely through Hell Corner. You got a lot of time to think about where you're going to apply the brake pedal. Down here, in towards Griffin's Bend. We saw Luke Rosella get it wrong. Burke's got to be on the money, and he is. Meets the apex nicely.
Up the hill towards the cutting. Stays a little bit wide of the first apex wall and doesn't cut it quite as fine as Hubbards did in the cutting, but still a good exit. You want to try and keep your car far away from those walls, and Burke lines it up beautifully across the top as well. Let's see how he goes through McPhillamy, up across the curbs. Doesn't hit the brakes, just a lift off across the top of the mountain. They're very confident, it seems, in their car's ability to turn off throttle down into the dipper. He does have the... he did briefly, I think, have a car just ahead of him there, but not now. Into Forest Elbow, the second sector line, 29.2. This is looking like a reasonably competitive lap here from Wayne Burke.
You had a little lift under the tree. You can get through there flat. Set up and track temps pending. I wonder if that's a sign we're going to see from all the cars, or if Burke was just a little bit offline. It's been a very restrained lap. It's not aggressive, but it's just consistent. Something similar to what we'd see from Craig Lowndes. It was never flashy, but it was fast.
Let's see just how fast this is then for Wayne Burke. On the brakes for Murray's. The car lurches forward. A very smooth, controlled line out, and a 2:04.46. And that will put them second, just behind the Trick Esports car. There probably was a bit more in it there for Wayne Burke, but still, he got a lap on the board, and it was a reasonable one.
Ferrari up next. Finally.
Hooray!
Ferrari. The challenger to the BMW. Philip Worley, simrigs.com, DPR number 72. This car should be quicker. Cross the mountain. Might lose out a little bit down the straights. Or so the theory goes, Rhys.
Yes, indeed. We did see the Ferraris setting some blistering times in the second sector during qualifying proper. So let's see if Philip Worley can go purple across the top of the mountain on this run. The DPR machine. The one entry for DPR that has made it into the top 15, and looking very clean, very nice as he comes across the line. How clean will it be at the end of the lap? Let's find out for Philip Worley. On the brakes between the 150 markers. As we saw on the lap before, slight bit of oversteer on the exit of the corner, but I think that was intentional there for Worley, just trying to get the power down as good as he can. And fortunately for him, you can see that a cloud has come over the circuit, and that's going to cool the track down a little bit further. It's gone down to 44 degrees, but there's going to be a little bit of extra grip here for Philip Worley as he brings it into Griffins, and that's a nice line through there. Gets out over the exit curb. The Ferrari's using second gear in Griffins. What about the cutting? Looked a little bit unstable on entry and just maybe a quarter of a car width wide at the apex, but he's bringing it along nicely up the top of the mountain.
Flat out, didn't lift, and he left nothing to chance, did he, up against that fence? Oh,
Whoa.
Nothing there either. Little flash of the brake pedal as he tips it into McPhilmy. You can see how nimble this Ferrari is. It's beautiful to watch, and he's very deep as well, down through Skyline and the S's on that brake pedal, into the dipper, and out towards Forest Elbow. It's looking mighty fast, but will the timesheets reflect?
29.1 in the second sector, not bad there for Philip Worley. He's just got 4 more corners to go here. Sticks to the middle down Conrod Straight's going to switch over as he comes across the crest. The crown and the road flattens out a little bit as you come across the top of the hill there. Just avoids hitting the curb on the entry to the chase. Let's see how much curb he takes in the chase proper. Pretty much none. He's keeping that car as stable as he possibly can. The mid-engined Ferrari showing its handling prowess here into the final corner then for Philip Worley. Let's see what the time is going to be. Almost runs into the grass, but a 2:04.449 for Worley, and that puts them into P2, just beating Synergy Sim Racing 1 by 1 and a bit tenths.
To look very tight at the top of these timesheets, isn't it? 800ths of a second covering the top 3 at the moment, and here comes Dennis Gaterick. He was very fast after the first couple of laps, wasn't he? Back in qualifying, the 9-minute session just gone. I would say he's got a very good chance of being the dark horse here in the prancing horse. Because his 1-lap pace was good. It wasn't until a few more laps had been put down that he started to tumble towards the latter half of the top 10. So keep an eye on Gaterick. DM racing car.
Yes, indeed. Remember, Gaterick was the first driver to set a time in qualifying over 2 hours ago. And out of the final corner he goes. Maybe not the best exit from Murray's to start it off, but that's not going to matter hugely at the end. It's what happens across the top that's the most important, into Hell Corner, and a nice clean line.
As the track gets cooler, the times should get faster, and that's going to aid some of our quickest drivers from a proper qualifying session. Tracks come down a degree again, but the cloud covers disappeared for Gaterick on this lap that Philip Worley was fortunate enough to get. And with the times as close as they are, that could make the difference for some of the quicker guys from Altus, Evolution Racing Team, the next Synergy Sim Racing car, United Sim Sports, all still to come. The lap, a little bit of eagerness on the throttle, a slight slide coming out of the cutting, but the lap is looking relatively clean so far. He also manages to keep it pinned under the tree. How committed is he? Up against the concrete on the right.
Whoa.
About as tight as it gets. I love watching the cars there.
Yeah, I do as well, especially down here too. Oh, a little bit of a cross up there as he got on the brakes over the crest, but he slows it up nicely for the dipper, and then flat out through this left-right sequence, gets on the brakes as he comes through the right-hander down to Forest Elbow. Keep it nice and tight through the middle of the corner, getting all the way down into first gear, that Ferrari, to get it rotated on the entry. And those are looking like some all right sector times from Dennis Gaterick. I think it's going to be very close. It might be another 2:04.4.
He's really fighting the car. It's not looked as comfortable, though, as we saw from Bird, as we saw from Worley, and as we saw from Wayne Burke as well. But sometimes, it doesn't matter, does it? In these shootouts, it's the flashy laps. It's the consistent laps. It doesn't always convert the way you think it looks. And this one's looked a little bit ragged, certainly as it's gone on. But we're going to see as the timing board is going to light up as he crosses the line. 2:04.495. He goes 4th fastest. And maybe that slight raggedness just cost him the little fraction he needed to get it on the front row.
Yeah, just those little wiggles from that Ferrari costing him a fraction of a tenth, maybe a hundredth or so every single time, and that's how it works out at the end. Well then, Hobbo 88, Brenton Hobson flying the flag for the second of our, for the third, sorry, of our 3 Synergy sim racing cars here. Brenton Hobson was able to put down a very good time in qualifying, get himself safely into the top 15 shootout, but can he convert it into a quick time here? He's going to be looking at that time that the Trick Esports car set, that 2:04.379, and he is going to be aiming for that.
Love for this car to go P6. So,
Yeah.
how does he set himself up for the final corner? The slowest approach we've seen, making sure he gets the power down as early as he can. We've seen some differences there. Hobbo was very tentative on the approach. His teammate Wayne Burke was full beans through there. Turn 1. That looks... Look, the timing sheet's going to tell us in a second of the first sector time, but turn 1 didn't look fast. It looked like he was almost too slow on the apex.
Yeah, but sometimes that can be a bit misleading. Sometimes drivers like Brenton Hobson, oh no, he's gone a bit too deep into Griffins. That's some oversteer there on the exit. He got caught in the middle of the road where the crown is. That's going to be a few tenths lost there already for Brenton Hobson. But I was going to say, he's one of those drivers that never really looks like he's pushing super hard. 47.5 for the first sector. That is not quick. But, yeah, Hobson is a Prost-like driver, in my opinion. You know, you don't see him pushing a huge amount, but he finds ways to extract speed out of cars. It's not working out hugely well for him on this lap, though. He looked a bit ragged there across the top and down into the S's and the dipper. He's just trying to keep that car going with a good amount of momentum down into Forest Elbow. That was a bit early turn in there. Might have gotten a bit of oversteer.
Had to have a couple cracks at the turn in there. You're right, he turned in way too early. Had to just open up the steering for a second. And, well, ironically, he was actually the fastest first microsector at turn 1. So it clearly worked, but he got it wrong at turn 2. And he's fighting a losing game for the rest of the lap. Mistake at Forest Elbow as well is going to cost him a little bit. And he's just pulled it up. And in fact, he's gone too deep, delayed on the throttle. The lap's gotten away from Hobson.
It has indeed. Down into the final corner he goes. A little bit slow on entry. Let's see what the time is going to be. It's a 2:0 nothing. The lap didn't count. So
it must have been at Forest Elbow. He must have somehow picked up a 0x there.
Yeah. Might have been just an ever so slight glance of the wall, maybe across the top coming McPhillamy as well. But Brenton Hobson is going to start that thing from 15th place tomorrow. Unfortunately, not 6th place. So, the next car we're going to focus on here. The R1 Sim Sports car. Rhys Cassell at the wheel of this one. He's driving with Cameron Stubber, John Peasnick, and Luis Paulo Gallon. All guys that can get the power down in a GT.
That's a dangerous lineup if they fire tomorrow. They're all very well-noted GT drivers, as you say. Rhys Cassell's been handed the keys for qualifying, though. He's got the job to do for R1 Sim Sports, as he applies the traction very nicely out of that last corner. You see the Evolution Racing team car lined up, ready to go next in pit lane. And Cassell gets it through one with a decent amount of speed.
Very decent indeed. That run down Mountain Straight is looking good, and Cassell taking the interesting line here, sticking to the right before he gets to the crest. You'll see drivers have little variances in their lines there, particularly down the straights, because of the crown in the road. It can actually slow you up a bit, so sometimes it's best to stick to one side of the racetrack. It was looking like a very good run through Griffins, and another good run through the cutting. Turned it in nice and early.
Yeah, he was very shallow all the way through there, wasn't he? What about this? Listen, full throttle. The Ferraris are getting through their full throttle. I think the BMWs are all having to have a little lift. That's That's what I've gathered so far. Purple and purple for the first 2 sectors, though.
Yes, indeed. First 2 microsectors there for Rhys Cassell. That 47.0, the quickest Sector 1 time I think we've seen all day. And take it easy down into the dipper. There was a slight bit of oversteer there from the Ferrari, but Cassell is a very high-level driver who's able to cope with that. Oh no, he's gotten into the wall on the exit of Forest Elbow right after setting a massive second sector.
He was purple again. That is the lap done. There's no way he's got away with that. And this was looking like such a strong lap from Cassell. He had that thing dancing at his fingertips.
What a shame for R1 Sim Sports. They'll be starting 14th at the very least. So down into the final corner, Rhys Cassell goes, and we're not expecting this to translate into an actual lap time, but he's going to see it through to the end of the lap. A 2:03.8 actually set. How was that not contact?
No way!
How did that happen? That lap should have been invalidated. Maybe he just got away with it. Still setting a 2:03. My goodness, we were preparing to announce it as, oh no, what a shame for R1, but he goes and puts it on provisional pole.
I'm back and looked at it. The right rear picks up off the ground. He's hit it that hard.
Well, that's a very bizarre...
And Hobson didn't even look like he hit the fence anyway, and he's got nothing. And he's starting on the back. That is bizarre. All the luck for the rest of the drivers is gone because Rhys Cassell just used it all up.
Well, let's see if Riley Preston can find something here in the number 13 ERT Ferrari. Of course, they have Logitech G emblazoned on their car. And bit of a driver change for this car. Brenton O'Brien was going to race in this machine, but as you can see, Scott Fountain has jumped in to replace him. And Fonte, of course, member of SimSpeed, co-owner of this broadcasting company. He's going to be having a run tomorrow. Can't wait to see how he does, but all eyes are on Riley Preston as that was a good line through Hell Corner. Let's see how he does up at Griffin's.
Covering from that non-zero X. Here we go then for Preston. Got to keep it off the fence on the left. You can grab that fence on the left if you're a little bit wide at Griffin's Bend, but no one's gotten out there in the marbles just yet. So if you miss the apex by a little bit, and Preston using a lot of the track on the exit of the cutting, more than we've seen from anyone else.
Going
full
up a
throttle.
Gear.
Yeah, picked up a gear as well, didn't he?
Indeed he did, and looking very fast across the top, maybe a little wide there, and fighting the rear end of the car through the very quick kinks across the top of the mountain. Just brushing the brakes and then on them hard down into the dipper. I love seeing how quickly this Ferrari slows up. It's amazing to watch. See how deep he goes into Forest Elbow. He's actually downshifting early using the engine brake and to help slow the car down. And that was a great line through Forest Elbow. Looked like the car was rotating on a dime through there.
Evolution Racing Team. Stalwart, aren't they? Of Australian sim racing. Been all around for quite a while. You see them up the front and everything they run in. Riley Preston trying to drag this Ferrari up and ahead of the BMWs and join another Ferrari on the front row. Thanks to the magic lap from Rhys Cassell. Out of the chase. Up over the curb on the left. Just getting the power down and using all of the track. Pick the braking marker. Tough to do at the last corner here at Murray's Corner. Nice line through there. 2:04.02. He goes second. It's 1.5 tenths away from Rhys Cassell. Front row for Evolution Racing Team for now.
Good lap there from Riley Preston. Kept it clean and maybe a few small wiggles that put paid to that time, but still very good. Now it's time for the other Evolution Racing Team car, and this one has quite the lineup. Josh Thomas, Ethan Griggault, Benjamin Smith, and Ben Rothberg. Ethan Griggault at the wheel of this one, and Ethan knows what it's like to win, to get podiums at the Mount Panorama circuit. We've seen so much good stuff from him in the V8 Scops League. driving for ERT. Let's see how he does in this Ferrari.
To the teams now where any one of them could take the pole. It's already a very big marker from Cassell. Grigault, Evolution Racing Team, he could steal it. Kaseki in the Mercedes is out next. That's going to be an interesting lap. The two Altus Esports cars to come. Jackson Harlow in the United Sim Sports car. And the last will be the last. Well, they are the last cars, sorry. So through turn 1 for Grigault. Slightly wide of the apex, maybe just a little bit wider than he wanted to. There is, of course, one more car that hasn't set a time, but that's, of course, Hobson, who had his chance and couldn't get it.
Indeed. I think Ethan was a little bit late on the brakes for Hell Corner, but he's managed to nail Griffins there. That's one of the best lines I've seen through that corner all day. Tipping it into the cutting, goes wide for the entry, brings it in, takes advantage of the camber of the road, just avoids getting into the wall on the exit. This is going to be a hard pushing lap here from Ethan Grigault. Oh, so close to the wall again, up across the top. Let's see if some of the same oversteer issues that plagued Riley Preston are here for Edman. Nope, he gets over the curbs really nicely in that Ferrari and down into the S's once more. So late on the brakes, but it seems like the front end of the car is incredibly cooperative.
He has put that thing within an inch of his life either side of the concrete, both sides of the racetrack there. And again at Forest Elbow, this is the most accurate lap we've seen. Grigault is placing this car exactly where he wants it, and so far getting away with it. Just 2 braking zones left for him. No more fences to contend with, just grass. And a cool 275 as he tips it in. The Ferraris are just noticeably better on the brakes and through the corners. They're leaking down the straights, but not for Grigault. He was the fastest car that time, down Conrod. This is looking good for Evolution Racing Team. What's it going to be, Rhys?
A 2:03.7 is what it's going to be, and that's provisional pole for Ethan Grigault. An excellent lap.
That is a stunner from Grigault. I said he could take pole. He's got it for now. There are still 3 challenges to come.
Yeah, and the first of which is a car that we were not expecting. This is Brodie Kaseki making his real-life racing supercars debut this year. And unfortunately, not in the BMW that we expected. He's driving with Cody Bircher and Cooper Murray tomorrow. But thanks to an error in car selection when joining the session, he has to complete his lap in the Mercedes. And I know that Brodie is an incredibly good driver, both in real life and in the sim. But I think this is going to be a challenge for any kind of driver, jumping in a car that's pretty much unfamiliar. But out the final corner and across the line he goes to start his lap, with the track temperature falling down to 42 degrees and the track's still in shadow. Yep, mistake there for Kaseki. Bit too late coming into Hell Corner.
He had a slide, over-rotated, and a lap. Oh, you know it's not going to be a competitive lap. It shouldn't be. He's in a car that he's not practiced in. He's got a setup he hasn't practiced with. He may have plenty of experience in this car, but not practicing for this scenario. Not for this week, anyway. Pretty decent through Griffin's Bend, though. And the Mercedes is a big, bloaty car, isn't it? It's just cumbersome to get around.
Yes, indeed. A little bit wide in the cutting, but one of the things that you can take advantage of in the Mercedes is the amount of torque it produces from that big, throaty German V8. Kaseki got on the brakes there through the right-hander, just managed to keep it out of the wall. It's a tough job he's got at the moment, still tapping the brakes, coming across the hill. And again, making the downshift, coming into McPhillamy Park, just to get the car turned in. Having a lot of trouble here.
Please slowed that thing up a bit more than he wanted to, I think, in towards the dipper.
Just a little. But down into Forest Elbow.
Wait! Gathered it
Hello.
up. How about those reflexes?
Yeah, right. That's ruined his run down Conrod Straight, though. Unfortunate for Brodie Kaseki. And now it's just a waiting game. He'll be watching that delta slowly increase. Doing a little bit of weaving down Conrod Straight. Trying to get over to driver's left and then into the chase. Takes a lot of curb and just pulling it up. Oh, the car's looking incredibly twitchy under brakes. Hard over the curbs. My goodness. Poor Brodie Kaseki ruining his choices in the last half hour or so, but a big lock up at the final turn. Got it all wrong. Managed to keep it on the track, though, and across the line he's going to come to set a 2:09.728. That's going to be 13th, I think, for the last-minute racing car.
Seriously wrong for that car not to be last. The times set. Andrew Carl, Logitech G Altus Esports. One of the favourites for the weekend. One of the favourites everywhere they go, really. Altus Esports. And Andrew Carl, very slow, nursing those tyres on this outlap.
Yes, indeed. Just making sure that everything is at the right temperature before he gets his lap started. It's quite important to get the brakes warmed up, get the tyres warmed up. And pushing a little bit harder into the chase. Get the momentum up, get into the rhythm, and then it will be time to set that potential golden lap. Brings it out a little bit wider coming on the entry into Murray's. And lap started then for Andrew Carl in the number 43 on the white line, almost getting into the grass. He's extending the road as much as he can. Look at that. Inch perfect out across the exit curb.
Very impressive the way he placed that car on the right-hand side coming into turn one. For all money, I thought that grass was going to spin him out for a second, but he had it very, very, very much where he wanted it. Griffin's Bend is just as good as well. Waiting for that first sector time to light up. At the cutting, he's narrow. We've seen a difference as he hits a bit of oversteer on the exit. A lot of drivers getting it very narrow at the cutting. Some have opted for the wider entry, but Carl, not one of those drivers. Sliding again, purple. Purple by a mile for the first sector.
This is a great lap so far for Andrew Carl, and he's pushing incredibly hard across the top, using all of the curb on the outside and getting a bit narrower through McPhillamy, trying to find every millimetre of advantage he can. He's flying into the S's, just manages to get the line for the dipper entry right. Next up, Forest Elbow in the second sector is looking great too. Into the 28s. That is purple once more for Andrew Carl and the Altus Esports machine. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with just 4 corners to go, but these are 4 of the most crucial corners on the lap.
Slowest of the 2 Altus Esports car after the 90-minute qualifying session. Is he going to flip the tables with this lap? Because this is looking like a stunner at the moment. A little bit wide of the apex. He didn't quite meet it. About a tyre's width wide. It's a fraction of a second lost. Into
Hard
the
on
last
the
corner.
brakes. There we go. Nice exit across the line. 2:03.458. That is pole position by 0.3 of a second. Or thereabouts for Andrew Carl. I think he'll be well happy with that.
Very, very impressive. The new benchmark set by Andrew Carl. And the chase is on for Jackson, Suzel and Harlow in the United Sim Sports number 1.
These guys were P2 in the 90-minute qualifying session. And they're a proper threat for pole position. One of the main competitors to the Altus duo. And Harlow taking his time here to get things lined up for this lap.
Harlow and Cooper Webster, probably, for Altus Esports, Astro Gaming. Altus Esports left in the session to 2 more cars. And they've got one heck of a lap to try and chase down.
They certainly have. That lap from Andrew Carl was simply spectacular. But Jackson Harlow starting to ramp up the pace here. And with his drives for Evolution Racing Team and Altus Esports in the past, I'm expecting great things from Harlow here. Across the line he goes. The United Sim Sports number 69 machine into the first corner. Very deep entry, but turns in early, brings it in nicely to the apex, and wow, that thing looks like it's on rails already. Let's see how it works out up at Griffin's.
Over the crest, keeping it to the left-hand side. That driveway, that little bit of a tarmac on the left that protrudes. I swear everyone wants to jump on that brake pedal. Harlow's not missed it.
That was a good line through Griffin's as well.
Yeah, using the curb on the exit. What about the cutting? What does he do? He keeps it narrow. Seems to be the faster line, but maybe a little bit more risky than that wider entry because that fence comes up very close. In fact, we've seen a couple people hit it. Maybe invalidate there in terms of Brenton Hobson. It's good across the top so far. Did he turn in a little bit too early there, potentially?
Keeps it nice and stable on the exit of McPhillamy, though. This is where a lot of time will potentially be made up. Let's see if he lines it up for the dipper. He does, and nails the throttle on the exit. Just almost glancing off the wall there on the inside, down into Forest Elbow. Have a look at these sector times, a 46.8 and a 28.9. This is going to be almost dead even with Andrew Carl's time. He's going to have to really hook up the final sector here, up across the crest. Just getting over 260 kilometers an hour as he goes under the bridge.
It's going to be tight. This is going to be tight race, isn't it? He's pretty much going blow for blow with Andrew Carl. Track temp's down to 41.1 as well. We started at 47. He's just ahead on the microsectors as Harlow for United Sim Sports. Can he get this car on the front row for the big 12-hour tomorrow? Can he get it on provisional pole for now? To the line. What is it? It's a 2:03.254 provisional pole for Jackson Harlow and United Sim Sports.
Simply magnificent time there from Harlow, and you know, one of the places I think he got that done was the exit of the cutting. We noticed that Andrew Carl had a bit of oversteer on the exit of that corner, but Harlow was super clean through there. Still has one more opponent to set their time though. Here is Cooper Webster in the Altus Esports, number 83, the Astro Gaming entry. Bo Albert and Sam Blacklock will be monitoring this and hoping that they will have the prime starting position for tomorrow's race. And considering Webster's pace in the open qualifying session, I wouldn't put it past him to put it on pole again, but those times set by his sister car and the United car are going to be very difficult to beat.
If anything, Harlow's guaranteed himself and his team a front row start. He's denied the Altus Esports lockout of the front row. Cooper Webster was the man to beat in qualifying for the 90-minute session. All the pressure's on him now. Everyone is watching this. Astro Gaming, number 83. Here we go.
On the brakes nicely for Hell Corner. Bit wide of the apex though. He wouldn't have wanted that. Got a bit crossed up in the middle of the corner trying to get it back to the inside. But an alright exit down Mountain Straight. He'll probably have lost a tenth or so on this lap already, which he's going to have to make up across the top. We'll wait and see what the first sector time is going to be though, because we'll see if it's a whopper or not. It's a bit of oversteer through Griffin's as well. He's pushing incredibly hard is Cooper Webster, coming up to the cutting. Brings it in nicely. That's a smooth exit. He's coming up to the sector line momentarily. That's a 46.89 again. This is so incredibly even for the top of the field.
Mistakes, and he's still matched him. That's ominous if he can get this right through the last two sectors. Cooper Webster has got his eyes locked in. Down Skyline, the big drop down the mountain. Oh, he's nudged the fence, but we know that doesn't mean much in this session. He's just given it a slight nudge, but has it invalidated the lap? We'll find out at the end. He's nudged it again on the inside of Forest Elbow. He's nudged it again on the outside of Forest Elbow. 3 times in 5 corners for Webster.
Well, he's still continuing on massively in this lap, so I think it might still be valid here for Webster. 46.8, 28.9, the sectors so far. He is going to have to absolutely nail this final sector if he wants to beat that 203.254 into the chase. Avoids the curb on the inside, but a nice clean exit. Let's see how this works out then for Cooper Webster. Can he take pole for Altus Esports? Can he beat Jackson Suzlin-Harlow out of the final turn? Nail the throttle on the exit, and it's going to be no lap. No lap time. Cooper Webster invalidated. And he's going to be starting, I think, 12th for tomorrow. That's a huge shame. 14th, we're hearing, the starting position for Cooper Webster then. Right at the very end.
Was a 203.6, even if it was validated. So even still, it would have been pole, and it is pole for Jackson Suzlin-Harlow. He's got it done for United Sim Sports. What a lap.
What a lap indeed, by 0.2 of a second over the number 43 Logitech G Altus Esports entry. Evolution Racing Team putting it in P3 as well in the number 26. That is an excellent run for them. And, I mean, the R1 Sim Sports car still in P4. They are a proper threat for the top of the field tonight. These are then the final results of the shootout session. It was Harlow and Carl who are going to be taking their cars off the front row tomorrow. Riley Preston making it a top 5 for Evolution Racing Team. Philip Worley with a very strong showing for Simrigs.com DPR. Dennis Gatterick making it into the top 10 for 9th, and Nathan Hubbards just breaking Fusion Sim Racing into the top 10. They did get a bit lucky with a couple of cars invalidating their lap times, but still a very strong showing for the number 45 for tomorrow.
Indeed. The BMW Team Schnitzel Machine will line up 11th thanks to Luke Rosella. Glenn Postlethwaite will be disappointed with 12th. Kaseki dragged his Mercedes to 13th. And then 14th and 15th for 2 invalidated laps of Astro Gaming, Altus Esports, and Synergy Sim Racing 2.
Well then, that's the end of it, and that's how they're going to line up for the start of tomorrow's race. I'm really looking forward to seeing things kick off early tomorrow morning. We hope that you can join us for that on SimSpeed TV tomorrow morning, starting at about 6 in the morning over in the east of Australia. We want to thank you very much for watching the qualifying session. It's been a fantastic series of laps that we've seen from our drivers today, but they're going to have to do a heck of a lot more tomorrow if they want to make it to the top. Big thanks to Smith & Sons for their support. A big thanks to Logitech G and Astro Gaming for coming in with the prizes as well. Oceanic Sim Racing and Aussie Mixed and Fixed will be looking to put on an excellent show tomorrow here on SimSpeed TV. You'll be joined by Ryan Jones and Lachlan Mansell for the first 3 hours of the race tomorrow morning, and then I will be jumping in with Lachlan Mansell for the last 3 hours of the event on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. From all of us at SimSpeed TV, we want to thank you for watching. I'm Rhys Gardner. Ryan Jones was with me in the commentary box, and Jay Kennedy directing, making everything happen behind the scenes. Bye for now, but certainly not forever. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him.
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!